Chapter 51 Ha's secret. After turning off the TV and taking the keys, Jerry took Aisha to leave the community and walked to the nearby magic house called Lena. Because every time he does a good deed, he will collect a certain amount of remuneration, ranging from a few dollars to as much as $100 or $200, and sometimes even taking all the cash from some criminals. So now, he already has tens of thousands of dollars in deposits, and he is definitely considered a wealthy person among his peers. Buying Elsa a wizard suit and a magic broom is not a matter of sprinkling water. Good afternoon, what do you two want to buy? Inside the store, Lena, the female owner in her 20s, handed the packed wizard suit and magic broom to a couple who came with their children while smiling redly, and greeted Jerry and Aisha who had just walked in. Say hello. Lena used to be a fan of occultism, and she always believed in the existence of magic, so after graduating from university, she opened such a small shop specializing in all kinds of magic props. However, because he is not very good at management, his business has not been very good, and he even stocked up too much, which caused the capital chain to break and was close to bankruptcy. And there was a stealing incident before, but fortunately, the other party was not an unscrupulous thief and left enough dollars, so she didn't call the police. But just 2 weeks ago, her store business exploded. Because the little firefighting hero who rides a broom and knows magic wears a wizard suit that is exactly the same as the wizard suit sold in her shop. This also led to all the goods she hoarded were sold out at once, not only children, but also many adults came to buy them. In view of the popularity of wizard suits, Lena had some business acumen, so she hurried to find manufacturers of magic toys, hoping to order a batch of broomsticks and wands of the same style as wizards. And those manufacturers of magic toys are obviously guys with keen business sense. Not long after the news came out, they quickly adjusted their production lines and began to produce magic brooms and wands of the same style as wizards. Even in appearance, it can be said that they are exactly the same. In fact, this situation is also within Jerry's expectations. In the previous life, it was just a Marvel movie, not a real hero. There were steel suits, Captain Shields, and the most popular unisex spider bodysuits produced by a large number of businesses. Now that he, a wizard, appears as a real hero, how can there be no merchants to produce his same equipment for profit? The equipment of the Key Wizard is much lower than the model equipment of Iron Man, which has become popular before. The technical content is much lower, and small manufacturers can easily produce it. And what he wants is such an effect. As a child, his body shape is the easiest to reveal his identity. He has not learned advanced magic such as disillusionment and apparition, which is still very dangerous. But now, there are so many kids around his age who have bought the same wizard suit, magic broom and wand as him, so as long as he doesn't really fly and use magic, he can completely pretend to be an ordinary kid. In this way, the chances of identity being discovered will be greatly reduced. Give me 2 suits and equipment of the same style as a wizard, the best quality. Jerry pulled out $500 knives and put them on the table. No problem, wait a minute, I'll pack it for you right away. Lena's eyes lit up when she saw this. Wizard, I really love you to death. For Lena, the biggest reason why her small shop is so booming is the wizard, so she is really grateful to the wizard from the bottom of her heart. At the same time, as a occult lover, the wizard is also her idol. Pushing open the door, Jerry and Aisha walked proudly down the street with a bag containing a wizard suit in their left hand and a fake broomstick in their right hand, attracting the envious eyes of countless children. Look, Jerry, isn't that Dad? At this moment, Elsa suddenly pulled Jerry's arm, pointed to the glass of a coffee shop on her right and said. Jerry turned his head to look at the words, and couldn't help but let out a small sigh. It really is Haas sitting in a coffee shop drinking coffee, and not alone. Opposite him sat a young woman who was exquisitely dressed, had a hot figure, and had wavy golden hair. Taking a closer look, isn't that exactly his and Aisha's elementary school teacher, the teacher Bailey who stood up on the school bus before? Seeing the two talking and laughing, with a very sweet look, Jerry suddenly realized something. This is, okay. No wonder, after the last school bus hijacking incident, Haas insisted on inviting Mrs. Bell to have dinner together, so it was premeditated. But he felt pretty good about it. First of all, Haas has not been easy these years. He has to be busy with the police case and take care of his family, being both a father and a mother. Although he was able to take care of himself, he basically took over all the housework. Moreover, Haas is not yet 40 years old this year. This young man really needs to find another partner. In addition, Jerry felt that Mrs. Bell was really good, but the appearance was second to none, mainly because of her good character. You can see it on the school bus last time. He dared to stand up because he had the confidence to deal with those gangsters, while Mrs. Bell sacrificed herself completely because she was afraid that the children would be hurt. From this point of view, Mrs. Bell is much greater than him. If Mrs. Bell married Haas, he would not have to worry about some housework. Although using magic to do housework saves time, but don't worry about it at all. He will have more time to learn magic and earn little red stars. Jerry, I want coffee too. Aisha watched her father drinking coffee inside, and swallowed immediately. What kind of coffee do kids drink? It's not good for your health. Go home and your big brother will make milk for you. Jerry vetoed it without thinking. Not to mention that going in now will disturb Haas and teacher Bailey's date. Even Aisha's age is not suitable for drinking coffee. One is that it is not good for the health, and the other is that he is afraid that Aisha will not be able to sleep after drinking, and will make a fuss at night. Aisha pouted after hearing this. I hate drinking milk. Drink milk to grow taller. Jerry explained patiently. But I just don't like milk. Aisha obviously doesn't want to compromise. Jerry thought for a while, his heart moved, and then he looked at Aisha. In this way, it's okay to drink coffee, but we have to go home to drink. We can't go there. Dad is talking to teacher Bailey. Talking, it's not good for us to disturb them in the past. Okay, I know, it's just kissing, they won't kiss when we go over. When Aisha heard that there was coffee to drink, she suddenly became happy. You really are a big kid. Jerry froze for a moment, then shook his head helplessly. Even though Aisha is only 10 years old, but due to frequent contact with TV networks, many things you think she would not know at her age, in fact, she knows all of them. Leaving Mr. Haas and Belle alone, Jerry took Aisha to the direction of the community. End of this chapter. Chapter 52 Doubt and Exploration Flavive. In the kitchen, Jerry secretly took out his wand and cast a transfiguration spell on a cup of freshly poured pure milk, turning it into a cup of coffee with sugar. According to the law of transfiguration, although Aisha drinks coffee, the coffee will turn into milk shortly after it enters the stomach. In this way, wouldn't the problem be perfectly solved? Sometimes, Jerry also thinks, if it is not for earning a little star, in fact, even if he is not a superhero, he can legally make a fortune and reach the pinnacle of life just by relying on the various magical spells he has learned. For example, the transformation curse is simply the gospel for dieters. Turn those unpalatable coarse grains, boiled vegetables, and other diet foods into delicious and high-calorie hamburgers, fried chicken, cakes, ice cream, big fish and meat, and turn plain water into all kinds of fine wine and happy water for fat boys with the transformation spell. Who can't lose weight? Taking advantage of this to start a weight loss company will make you a steady profit. However, the subsequent rebound may be more powerful, but what does it matter? After the rebound, you can reduce it again. Put away the wand, picked up the coffee and walked out of the kitchen. With a smile all over his face, Jerry came to Elsa who was sitting on the sofa in the living room. Come on, Delang, it's time to get up and drink. Ah, bah. It's my sister, you can get up and drink coffee. Aisha took the coffee and took a sip, and immediately showed a happy smile. Children are like this, or as long as people are like this, the more you don't want to give him something, the more he wants something. And the easier it is to get, the longer it takes, the less you like it. Coffee is not necessarily better than milk, but for Aisha, coffee is a rare thing for her to drink, and there are a lot of milk in the refrigerator at home, and she has to drink it every morning, and she has long been tired of it. It's still too young. When you grow up, you will understand how important it is for your future body to drink milk to supplement nutrition when you are young. Jerry shook his head, ready to read the magic book for a while. Recently, he has been studying the book Outwit Black Magic brought back from the Room of Requirement. There are many theories about black magic in it. It has a lot to do with improving the power of black magic such as the God's Shadowless Curse and the Fuchsia Curse. Little help. At 9 o'clock in the evening, the family sat on the sofa and watched Friends being played. However, except for Aisha, although Jerry and Haas are watching TV, they don't pay attention to it. Jerry is now turning on Refreshing, summarizing some knowledge points from reading magic books during the day. As for Haas, he was still struggling with the voice of that little wizard that day. Ever since the fire incident, he has always felt that something was wrong. It wasn't until after he returned home that night that he suddenly realized why the voice of the little wizard sounded so familiar to him. Because it turned out to be almost exactly the same as his son Jerry's voice. However, the fact that children have somewhat similar voices before going through the voice-changing period does not seem to fully prove anything. And when he came back that day, he also asked Aisha, Jerry didn't go out alone in the afternoon. However, when he thought about it later, he sometimes couldn't fully believe Aisha's words. After all, this little guy seemed to listen to Big Brother Jerry more than his own father. The key point is that his son Jerry has indeed been different from ordinary children since he was a child, and the height and body shape of the two are also very consistent, which makes him suspicious again. In fact, Haas was mainly worried in his heart. If Jerry was really the wizard who knew magic, it would be too dangerous to go out to fight criminals every night. You must know that many criminals have guns. What if they are injured? Jerry, I have something very important to talk to you about. In the end, Haas decided it was better to ask directly. Important thing. Jerry withdrew from the state of sorting out magic knowledge, was stunned for a moment, and then comforted with a sudden realization, Dad, we all know, don't have any psychological pressure, Aisha and I support you. What do you know, what psychological pressure do I have, and why do you support me? Hearing Jerry's answer, Haas's mind was full of question marks. Jerry looked at Haas with a puzzled face, and said in a curious tone, Dad, don't you want to tell Aisha and me that you and Teacher Bailey are going to be together? Haas was shocked when he heard the words, and his expression suddenly became flustered. This thunderbolt police officer who usually fights gangsters bravely, stuttered when he spoke at this time, No. Not, you, how do you know about me and Belle being together, actually, this matter. From the day of the last school bus hijacking incident, Haas had a crush on the brave and beautiful Teacher Bailey, and Teacher Bailey also wanted to see Haas differently because of Jerry. Being able to teach a child with such a sense of justice as Jerry shows the character of Haas, a father. Moreover, although Haas is almost 40, his figure is well managed, and he has the charm of a mature man. In this way, the two of them came and went, and it was good. However, neither of them planned to tell Jerry and Aisha about this matter, mainly because they were worried that the two children would not accept a new member into the family. As a primary school teacher, Belle still has a good understanding of children's psychology. However, now Jerry told Haas directly that he and Aisha already knew about it, so how could this prevent Haas from being caught off guard? At this moment, he had completely forgotten what he was about to ask Jerry just now. Seeing this, Jerry's heart moved, and then he patted Haas on the shoulder, Dad, when Aisha and I went to buy the wizard suit this afternoon, we saw you drinking coffee with Teacher Bailey in the cafe. Don't worry, we all love Mrs. Bell and totally agree with you being together. After speaking, he got up and walked to his room. It's 9 o'clock, look, I'm going to bed. At this moment, Aisha also yawned, and also patted Haas on the shoulder, Dad, you said before that you would take my big brother and me to the playground, stop talking and counting, otherwise the next time I see Teacher Bell, I will tell her that you kissed Mary Aunt on the first floor last Christmas thing. Haas, Mary Aunt is a widow in her 30s on the first floor. Haas had been with this widow for a while without telling Jerry and Aisha. But later, I found that the other party didn't seem to like children very much, so I broke up with the other party decisively. Seeing that both Jerry and Aisha went back to the room to sleep, Haas scratched his head, and then suddenly laughed, this way, it seems to be good. But soon, he realized that he didn't seem to have time to ask whether Jerry was that little Mr. Wizard. Haas was just about to get up, but quickly sat down again, because he felt that even if Jerry was, he might not necessarily admit it, so he should go to Jerry's room secretly to check at night. End of this chapter. Chapter 53 Jerry's plan. 2 o'clock in the morning the door of Jerry's room was slowly pushed open, and a tall figure hunched over, walked in lightly like a thief. It was his adoptive father Haas in this life. Could it be that I'm thinking too much? Haas looked at Jerry lying sprawled on the bed, half of the quilt kicked off, and couldn't help muttering to himself. Picking up the quilt to cover Jerry, Haas walked out of the room lightly again and closed the door behind him. Not long after Haas left, Jerry, who was lying on the bed, slowly opened his eyes. It seems that we have to find a way to completely dispel Haas's suspicion. It turned out that when Jerry was on the sofa just now, because he had not turned off the refreshing function, his 5 senses were in a very keen state, and it was easy to discover the strangeness of Haas. So for the sake of caution, he didn't go out to earn Little Red Star tonight as usual. Sure enough, Haas really came to make rounds at night. This also means that Haas once again became suspicious of his identity. In fact, it's not that he doesn't believe in Haas. From the last school bus hijacking incident, it can be seen that Haas values his and Aisha's safety more than justice and his duty as a police officer. Even if Haas knew that he was a wizard, he probably wouldn't tell others, and wouldn't take him to the police station to register. However, Haas is just an ordinary person after all. For an ordinary person, the less he knows, the safest is actually. Once Haas knows that Jerry is a wizard, even if he doesn't say it, there is no guarantee that others will not be able to obtain this information from him. It's okay if it's not Jerry's enemy, but if it's Jerry's enemy, Haas and Aisha will be in danger. Therefore, for now, it is better not to tell Haas to dispel his doubts. However, what if Haas' doubts can be completely dispelled? He hasn't learned the forgetting charm yet. After thinking about it carefully, he gradually had some plans in his mind. The next day, on the dining table in the living room. Dad, why do you have 2 black circles on your eyes? Aisha ate the brown fried dumpling with ice flakes, pointed to Haas's eyes and asked innocently. Haas took a sip of the porridge, and he hesitated and said that a colleague called to report the case last night, so he went to bed late. On the other hand, Jerry laughed to himself. Don't look at him coming back at 3 o'clock in the morning every night, getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night. However, because of the reason of improving the mind, every time he falls asleep, he enters a deep sleep, and the sleep efficiency is not comparable to that of ordinary people. And the child's mental strength is already relatively good. Haas is almost 40. He is middle-aged, and he stays up until 2 or 3 o'clock at night before going to bed. It is strange that he can wake up in the morning with energy. Dad, since you and Mrs. Bell are already together, let's invite Mrs. Bell to come to your house for dinner tonight. Haas was stunned for a moment, and then immediately said with relief, Okay, son, today is Friday, and I will leave work early, so I will reserve a spot in advance and take you and Belle out to eat together. Now that the 2 children already knew about his relationship with Belle and recognized her, it was indeed time for Belle to come and get to know the 2 children in another capacity. However, when Jerry heard the words, he quickly shook his head and said, No, it's a waste to go out to eat. I once read such a sentence in a book, the highest level of hospitality is a family banquet. Teacher Bailey will soon become the most important member of our family. Of course, eating at home will have more atmosphere. But Haas hesitated for a moment, he doesn't know how to cook, and Jerry will have to work hard at the family dinner. Dad, do you think the dishes I cook are not as delicious as those in the restaurant? Seeing Haas hesitate, Jerry pretended to be angry. Haas quickly waved his hand, How come, which restaurant can compare the dishes my son cooks? Well, I will inform Belle in a while, and that is thanks to you. It's not hard. Remember to call home when you get off work at night. I will prepare the dishes in advance, so that when you and Mrs. Bell arrive home, I will be almost done. Just kidding, if you go out to eat, the plan will be ruined. Time, 5:30 p.m. Jingle bell. The landline in the living room suddenly rang. Jerry, Dad is calling for you. Jerry, who was preparing ingredients in the kitchen, hurried to the living room when he heard his sister Elsa's call. Dad, you are off work, okay, I see, I will start preparing now. Putting down the phone, Jerry smiled and came to Aisha. Aisha, do you want magic ice cream that can replenish magic power? I want to eat, but didn't you and Dad say that I can't eat now? Elsa, who was flying under the air conditioner on a magic broom, her eyes lit up when she heard Jerry's words, but then she was puzzled. Due to the change of teeth, she has been jointly restricted by Jerry and Haas to eat sweets during this period, especially when she will have a meal later. Snacks are not allowed before meals, but Jerry set the rules early on. Ahem, it's not that Big Brother loves you. See if you haven't eaten for such a long time? In a word, do you want to eat? Jerry coughed in embarrassment. Eat? The simple Aisha still believes in Jerry. After all, yesterday Jerry made coffee for her behind his father's back. Okay, but you can't tell Dad that I went out and bought you ice cream, otherwise there will be no more in the future. Seeing that the only loophole had been plugged, Jerry took out the guitar bag from the room and hurried out the door. Time, 6:30 p.m. Haas, who had already picked up Belle, was happily driving his police car on the roads of the city. At this time, a piece of news suddenly came from the radio in the car. "Hello everyone, I'm your favorite reporter Lucy, it's 6:30. We have received reports from citizens that Mr. Wizard has appeared again after the last fire incident." At this time, he was riding a broomstick and rescued an old man who unfortunately fell into the water from the river. "Let us cheer for him." Hearing this news, Haas's heart moved, and he stepped on the accelerator. "Oh dear, why are you driving so fast?" Belle, who was sitting in the co-pilot, was taken aback by the sudden pushback. "It's getting late, I'm afraid it will be bad when Jerry's cooking is ready and we haven't arrived yet," Haas explained casually. Belle nodded, with a look of emotion. "I didn't expect Jerry to be so sensible not only at school, but also to do all the housework at home. He's only 11 years old." After sighing, he complained to Haas again, "You should have told me earlier, so that I can go there early and help." Jerry refused. He said he would cook a table of Wagyu cuisine himself as a gift to celebrate your arrival. "Besides, you don't know how to cook Wagyu cuisine," Haas explained. "That's right, I feel that I may not be as good at cooking as Jerry. Do you think I can be a good mother?" Belle suddenly became a little melancholy. End of this chapter. Chapter 54, SHIELD. It should be almost there. Jerry checked the time, it was already 6:40, and Limara flew on the broomstick in the direction of the abandoned factory. Originally, he just planned to make a face in front of the public, so that people would know that he had appeared at this point, but he just happened to encounter someone falling into the water, so he saved it by the way, which can be considered as a subsidy for Little Red Star. Dodging the crowd and returning to the abandoned warehouse, Jerry was about to change out of his wizard suit, when suddenly his ears moved. He immediately took out his wand, and sternly said in the direction of a large rusty machine in the abandoned warehouse, "Who's there? Come out." At this time, he was still in a superhuman state, and his 5 senses were extremely sharp. Just now he smelled a strange smell that did not belong to this warehouse behind the rusted machine. "Hello, Mr. Wizard, I mean no harm." At this time, a tall beautiful woman in a special combat uniform raised her hands to indicate that she had no weapons, and slowly walked out from behind the machine. This person is none other than Maria Hill, the top secret agent sent to New York by Director Fury. At this time, Hill was also a little surprised. He didn't expect that this wizard not only knows magic, but also has such a strong sense of vigilance. You know, as a top agent, Hill's lurking skills are also full. She just hid behind the rusted machine, but she didn't make a sound. How did the other party find her? Who are you? What are you doing here? Jerry didn't relax his vigilance just because the other party was a beautiful woman and raised her hand. "I'm not a bad guy. I'm Agent Maria Hill. I work for the National Defense Strategic Defense Center and Logistics Support Agency. This is my business card." Hill took out a business card from his combat uniform and slowly stepped forward and handed it to Jerry. "I want to chat with you, I wonder if you have time." National Defense Strategic Defense Center and Logistics Support Agency, this name sounds familiar. After searching the memory of his previous life in his brain, he soon realized that the so-called National Defense Strategic Defense Center and Logistics Support Bureau is actually the full name of SHIELD. "Sorry, I have something urgent to deal with now. So, after 12 o'clock in the evening, you will wait for me in this warehouse, and we will talk in detail then." Jerry put away his wand, took off his wizard suit, and stuffed it and the broom into his guitar bag. He checked the time with his mask on, and before Hill could answer, he rushed out of the warehouse at a speed of 100 meters. The jump disappeared from the top of the wall. Good. Hill was stunned for a moment, watching Jerry's disappearing back. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly. After arriving in New York, because Dr. Banner had not been found yet, Hill first investigated this wizard who could cast magic. But after a series of investigations and all the information of the police station, she found that the other party was very careful about hiding his identity. All the cameras in Queens did not capture the video of the wizard showing his face. In the beginning, the disappearance of the other party was accompanied by a puff of smoke, and later riding a broomstick was even more comfortable, and it was difficult to lock. Even if she retrieved satellite images, she could only photograph the other party going in and out of an abandoned warehouse, and couldn't photograph the others. What can be confirmed now is that this boy named Wizard may be of Chinese descent, aged between 9 and 13, and lives in a certain complex near the abandoned warehouse. Because the scope of his initial activities is around here. However, the vicinity of this warehouse is a densely populated area with a large number of communities, and there are many qualified children. It is not easy to find it. So today she came directly to this warehouse in person, wanting to see if she could find any clues. I didn't expect to meet the real master directly. So she simply revealed her identity and planned to have a sincere talk face to face. After all, the other party is just a passionate child with a sense of justice. But the result was somewhat unexpected. Finding a place where no one was there, he took off his mask, used the transfiguration charm to turn his guitar bag into a suitcase, and changed the style of his jacket. Then Jerry rushed towards the direction of his community. He had to get home before Haas, or he would be ruined. Give me a box of ice cream and a bottle of mineral water. When passing by a canteen, remembering the promise to buy ice cream for Aisha, Jerry stopped for a while. 5 minutes later, at the door of the house, Jerry opened the box of ice cream, ate all the ice cream inside, then poured mineral water, took out his wand and cast a transfiguration spell on it. Suddenly, a box of mineral water turned into a new box of ice cream. Ice cream must not be given to Aisha, it is not good for teeth, and she will not want to eat at night. But in order to prevent Aisha from revealing his going out, he had to use the transformation curse instead. Pushing open the door, the impatient Elsa rushed over immediately. Jerry, Jerry, my magic ice cream, where is my magic ice cream? Here, take it out and eat, I'm going to cook, but you have to eat quickly, otherwise Dad will be in trouble when he comes back later. Jerry handed the boxed ice cream to Aisha with a serious face. Aisha happily took the ice cream immediately, picked up a spoon and ate it in a hurry. The speed was comparable to that of Jerry, who was just at the door. After handing the ice cream to Elsa, Jerry immediately rushed to the kitchen and closed the door, took out his wand and began to cast cooking magic. 15 minutes later, Aisha, who had finished eating ice cream, sat on the sofa and touched her stomach, muttering with some doubts, why did I eat such a large portion of magic ice cream this time, and I didn't feel full except for wanting to pee. Under normal circumstances, after eating a whole box of ice cream, her little stomach is basically full, but this time she didn't feel full at all. Crack! At this moment, there was a sound of unlocking the door. Immediately afterwards, Haas walked in with Belle. Aisha, where's your big brother Jerry? Haas asked Aisha immediately after entering the door. Jerry's in the kitchen. Aisha raised her finger and pointed to the kitchen. Haas immediately walked towards the kitchen in 3 steps and 2 steps. Hey, Dad, you are back, and you still need a tomato and egg soup, you can take out these dishes first. Jerry looked at Haas, who walked into the kitchen, and while whisking the beaten egg liquid into the soup, he pointed to the steaming 7 dishes on the kitchen chopping board. Good. Haas stared at the 7 hot dishes on the chopping board, and was taken aback for a moment, but quickly realized that he smiled and began to pick up the dishes. According to what he heard on the radio, it took about 30 minutes for the wizard to save people and speed up to go home. And the 7 dishes in front of him obviously couldn't be prepared in 30 minutes, especially those big dishes, which took a lot of time. It seems that his son Jerry is really not the wizard who can do magic. Such a result, on the contrary, let him breathe a sigh of relief. End of this chapter. Chapter 55 Conversation with Hill. Jerry brought the last tomato and egg soup out of the living room, just in time to see Mrs. Bailey taking out a sparkling ice and snow crown from the bag and giving it to Elsa. So he put the tomato and egg soup on the dining table, and greeted her with a smile. Good evening, Miss Bailey. Good evening, Jerry, I have a present for you too. Teacher Bailey saw Jerry appear, and quickly took out a guitar bag that had been prepared from the chair behind him. I heard Haas said that you seem to be very interested in guitars recently, so I bought you a new guitar. When we met for the first time, Ms. Bell also inquired about the hobbies of Jerry and Aisha from Haas, and spent a whole day to choose these 2 suitable gifts. I like guitar. Jerry froze for a moment, but soon remembered that in order to prevent Haas from discovering that there was a guitar bag with a broomstick in the house, he had indeed told Haas that he was interested in guitars. Yes, I've always loved guitars and taught myself for a while, and I absolutely love this gift. Seeing that Aisha and Jerry liked their presents very much, Mrs. Bell was also relieved. In fact, in terms of age, she is only in her 20s, and she has just graduated from college for 3 years. This is the first time for her to do this kind of thing, and she is afraid that Jerry and Aisha will not like her. Now that Jerry and Aisha are no longer her students, but Haas' son and daughter, some things are different. Fortunately, Jerry and Aisha are very sensible, especially Jerry, who always considers her feelings in everything he says and does, so the atmosphere of this dinner is still very harmonious. For Jerry, Haas is almost 40 years old, and he brought the two of them with him. It is a blessing from the goddess of luck to find a young and beautiful teacher like Bailey, and of course he has to help him. And Elsa has always followed Jerry's lead, and Mrs. Bailey also gave her a crown of the Snow Queen. Who can refuse a crown of the Snow Queen? Needless to say, Haas, he is the one who most hopes to have fun at home at this time, and has been working hard to enliven the atmosphere. Under such circumstances, this dinner is of course a happy one. After dinner, everyone sat on the sofa watching TV and chatting. Teacher Bell suddenly proposed to Jerry, "Jerry, how about trying out the new guitar? I heard Haas say how good your guitar is." Jerry turned his head to look at Haas, who silently made a cheering gesture to him. In Haas's view, Jerry is a genius. As long as he is interested in something, he can quickly learn it. He was interested in cooking before, and now he can be called a chef. Since Jerry said he was interested in the guitar before, he must be able to play it pretty well now. Seeing Teacher Bailey's expectant eyes and Haas' full confidence in himself, the corners of Jerry's mouth twitched. Fortunately, when I was in college in the previous life, I really learned the guitar, otherwise I would really make a fool of myself today. He took out a brand new guitar from his guitar bag and tuned it. "What song do you want to hear?" "I want to hear a song about wizards." At this time Elsa raised her little hand excitedly. "About wizards?" Jerry suddenly remembered the brainwashing song from his previous life, and played and sang subconsciously, "You cha-cha, singing the sunrise, poor haha, singing the sunset, Mr. Wizard rides a broom to fly sorry, but my broom can only clean up the garbage, what is a happy planet, poor cha-cha." At the end of the song, Haas, Mrs. Bailey and Aisha were all petrified. It turns out that Jerry also has aspects that he is not good at. "You guys wash up and go to bed early, I will take Teacher Bailey back, and I may not be able to come back until later." At the door, Haas coughed and explained to Jerry and Aisha. Teacher Bailey's face blushed inexplicably. Jerry understood instantly, and added a sentence casually, "Okay, if it's too late, you can find a hotel outside, otherwise Elsa and I will be woken up when the door is opened." "Thank you son for the divine assist." Haas's eyes lit up, "It makes sense, then I won't come back tonight." Teacher Bell's face turned red up to her neck. "Jerry, Elsa, see you next week." Bending down and waving to Jerry and Aisha, regardless of Haas, he turned around and walked quickly towards the elevator entrance. "Goodbye, Miss Bailey." Jerry winked at Haas, and Haas immediately turned around knowingly and chased after Mrs. Bell. "Let's go, we should go to bed too." Seeing Mrs. Haas and Bailey leave, Jerry closed the door, took Aisha to wash and went back to their rooms to rest. 12 midnight. Jerry slowly opened his eyes, took out the guitar bag containing the broomstick and wizard account from under the bed, and quietly left the community. Tonight he has a date with that S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Hill. Although he doesn't know much about the world of Marvel, he still knows that S.H.I.E.L.D. is the initiator of the formation of the Avengers in this world. Therefore, he still attaches great importance to the visit of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's just that during the day it was indeed because of special circumstances that I made an appointment with the agent at another time. After changing the wizard suit in a deserted place, Jerry rode a broomstick to the abandoned warehouse. He walked around the warehouse first, but didn't find an ambush before riding a broom into the warehouse. "I'm really sorry, I have something urgent during the day." Looking at Agent Hill standing in the warehouse, Jerry jumped off the broomstick and said modestly. Hill glanced at the broom with interest, then shook his head, "It's okay, I came here quite suddenly. In this way, we don't have to beat around the bush. I don't know what your situation is. Is there anything you can do with me?" Jerry didn't want to talk too much with a professional agent, it would be easy to reveal some information, so he started to get straight to the point when he met. "Your tone seems to be wary of me. Have you heard of our National Defense Strategic Defense Center and Logistics Support Agency before?" Hill did not answer directly, but asked rhetorically. "It's really sharp." Jerry shrugged helplessly, "No, I'm just very wary of national organizations like you, because you always want to know my secrets, it's dangerous. Also, don't you think the name of your organization is too long? It's a bit of a mouthful, but we're working hard to change it." Hill suddenly laughed, and then explained softly, "We don't want to know your secrets, but your behavior has attracted our attention, and your ability may cause harm to society. I just learned some magic by accident, and I just want to do some good things within my ability. How could it cause harm to society? Jerry's tone was deliberately a little angry. End of this chapter. Chapter 56 Fury's decision. Don't get excited. You should know that as a national security unit, some things are not dangerous if you say there is no danger. At least you should let us know you. Only by knowing you can we make a judgment. Hill comforted while persuading. Jerry pulled out his wand, pointed at the passing mouse, and a burst of magic light shot out, instantly turning it into a stone. I will not tell you my true identity. I have watched many movies. Once a state unit like yours knows my true identity, it will lock me up and dissect me like an alien. And don't try to capture me by force, my magic is not vegetarian, don't blame me for turning you all into stones, or pigs. Turning people into pigs is definitely impossible with Jerry's current magical ability, but during this time he has a deeper understanding of the cross-species conversion of transfiguration. When it comes to turning a small animal like a mouse into something else of similar size, it's fine. The conversion and deformation of the same substance, as long as it is not too big, is not difficult for Jerry. Now he is working on the conversion and deformation of cross-species. The reason why I say this is to increase some deterrence, and to reflect my own particularity by the way. Hill looked at the living mouse on the ground, which was turned into stone, and his pupils shrank suddenly. Originally, in her eyes, Jerry was just a child who could fly on a broomstick and had some supernatural powers. Although this kind of child had some abilities, she didn't take it seriously. Because things like flying and immobilization are nothing, many high-tech weapons of SHIELD can do it. The antique car Laura of her colleague Agent Coulson is equipped with an advanced flame-throwing device, and its flying speed can be many times faster than this little wizard's broom. However, turning a living mouse into a stone, and Jerry's mouth can turn a person into a pig, this kind of magic is beyond the explanation of science. At least S.H.I.E.L.D's current technology can't do that. Jerry's level of danger in her eyes suddenly increased several times. Of course, the value has also increased several times. At the same time, she sighed in her heart, these unscrupulous movies killed people, otherwise the other party wouldn't be so vigilant. However, after thinking about it, what the other party said was not alarmist. As a senior agent, she knew many dark places in this country. In particular, many politicians only have interests in their eyes, and they are indeed not worthy of trust. Okay, we don't need to delve into your real identity, but I want to ask you, why do you insist on doing good deeds? Do you think it's cool, or are there other reasons? Hearing this, Jerry lowered his head suddenly. Since he was wearing a mask, Hill couldn't see his expression clearly, but he felt that the other party seemed to be in a low mood. With the fine control of body muscles in Superman mode, Jerry brewed for a while, then slowly raised his head. His eyes were slightly red, and he replied word by word, because there was once a person who told me, with great power comes great responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. Hearing Jerry's answer, Hill couldn't help but startled, and repeated it in a murmur. Okay, I see. I will report your situation to the higher authorities truthfully. As long as you don't use your ability to commit crimes, we won't do anything to you anymore. Come here today. Hill took a serious look at Jerry, turned and left the warehouse. He just left, and he didn't invite me to join S.H.I.E.L.D. Seeing Hill leave decisively, Jerry showed a surprised look on his face. Originally, he thought that Agent Hill was here to recruit him on behalf of SHIELD, but he didn't expect that it didn't seem to be the case. But after thinking about it carefully, it actually makes sense. After all, Little Spider had been wandering in Queens for a long time, and SHIELD hadn't recruited him. Later, I heard that because of special circumstances, Iron Man went to recruit him as a temporary worker. Perhaps in the eyes of SHIELD, he is still just a child. Even if he knows some magic, they will not use child labor unless there are special circumstances. Maybe this time I came here just to find out his true identity. It's just that he's not as big as a little spider, who dangles around the city with his spider silk, and goes home directly through the window of his room after he dangles. His identity has long been found out by S.H.I.E.L.D. That's why we had this contact. In fact, with such a result, Jerry felt relieved. Although there are definitely many opportunities to earn a lot of little red stars in SHIELD, it is also very dangerous. Although Fury is the director, he also has to be restrained by politicians at the highest level of the government, and few of those politicians are good things. Therefore, Jerry never wanted to join SHIELD. He could at most accept cooperation, that kind of cooperation in exchange of equal value. The point is, his strength is still too low now. You know, he hasn't even gone to Hell's Kitchen yet. Even though he has a broomstick, he also has a lot of attack magic, but if he is attacked and shoots random guns, he still needs GG. And the criminals over there in Hell's Kitchen have a lot of heavy weapons in their hands. Therefore, during the conversation just now, he deliberately used the words of the little spider uncle in his previous life to mislead Agent Hill, let the other party have a good judgment and leave a good impression first. It is best to treat him after SHIELD, just like a little spider. After he develops a few waves, his strength will be stronger, and he will return to Hogwarts after learning important spells such as the Iron Armor Curse, Disarming Curse, Apparition, and Disillusionment Curse. Then go to cooperate with SHIELD, find opportunities to get in touch with some relatively large dangerous incidents, so as to earn more red stars. After temporarily stopping the brainstorming, Jerry also left the abandoned warehouse on a broomstick. Now that they are all out, I must patrol the Queen's District again, looking for opportunities to earn a little red star. Yesterday was already delayed for a day, and today can't be delayed any longer. There are not many days left until the cooldown for him to enter the small world ends. He should try his best to earn enough little red stars before entering the small world next time, so that he can stay in Hogwarts longer, learn more magic, and improve his magic power. If he remembers correctly, the interval between Iron Man's appearance in Avengers 1 is not very long. When a large number of aliens invade New York, it will be a good opportunity to acquire a large number of little red stars. However, if the strength is not enough, let alone little red stars, you may lose your life. At the same time, the SHIELD base in New York, Hill, who returned to the base, also passed the content of the conversation with Jerry this time, as well as his own assessment of Jerry, to Nick Fury at the Washington headquarters. After Fury received the report, he gave the order to put aside the investigation of the wizard's identity for the time being, and focus on the surveillance of Greyburn College. Obviously, Dr. Banner, who has super destructive power, is much more dangerous than a wizard who is still a child. End of this chapter. Chapter 57 Greyburn College. A week later in the morning. Haas was combing his hair in the bathroom, and Aisha tiptoed over with her head down. Dad, I just made a very small mistake, you shouldn't be angry. Baby, what's the matter? Haas stopped the setting spray in his hand, and for some reason, something bad came to his mind. Aisha whispered with erratic eyes, well, when I flew to your room on a magic broom just now, that Autobot of yours suddenly attacked me, and then it was shattered by my magic counterattack. What, Autobot? Honey, you don't mean that Optimus Prime model that I waited in line for 3 days to get last year. Haas quickly understood what his daughter meant, and his heart slowed down by half a beat. Aisha nodded slowly. It's okay, it's just a model, we have to go to the amusement park today, you go and change your clothes first. That Optimus Prime model was a limited edition, and now he couldn't buy it even if he wanted to, but facing his daughter, Haas couldn't bear to blame him, so he could only secretly regret that he forgot to close the door when he just left the room. Seeing Haas' distressed look, Aisha suddenly raised her head and smiled, Dad, I was just joking with you, your Autobot is still on the table. Hearing Aisha's words, Haas instantly felt that he had returned to heaven from hell, and his mood suddenly improved a lot. But before he blamed Aisha for being naughty, Aisha went on to say, it's just that I accidentally broke your 2 lightsabers just now, this is not a joke. Lightsaber? Ah, the lightsaber is fine, as long as Optimus Prime is fine, you can buy the lightsaber next time. At this time, he heard that the lightsaber was broken, and Haas suddenly felt that it was nothing, and it was not a limited edition, so he would spend a little more money and buy 2 more. At this time, Jerry, who was preparing to go out in the living room, laughed secretly when he heard the conversation between the father and daughter in the bathroom. He found that his younger sister was usually silly, but she was always very clever at critical moments, especially in dealing with Haas. Originally, Aisha accidentally broke Haas's beloved lightsaber. Although Haas would not scold her, he must be in a bad mood. And today is the day I made an appointment with Mrs. Bell to go to the amusement park. If Haas is in a bad mood, then today's play will not be so fun. But now that Aisha has made such a move, Haas's mood is even better than before. Seeing Elsa walking out of the bathroom triumphantly with her head held high, Jerry couldn't help but urged with a smile, stop playing, go into the house and change your clothes, we're leaving in a while." Around 9:30 in the morning, Jerry and Aisha came to a famous large amusement park in Manhattan in Haas's police car. And teacher Bailey has already arrived at the gate of the playground ahead of time and bought the tickets. Jerry has no interest in going to the playground. It's just that Aisha likes it, and it's rare for Haas to spare time to be with Aisha. In addition, teacher Bailey also wants to use this to enhance everyone's relationship, so he has no objection. Compared to flying around in the sky on a magic broom, and studying and practicing magical magic, it is difficult to arouse his interest in the facilities in the playground. "Ah, help, I can't do it, I'm going to die, let me go down." In the roller coaster, hearing the screams from the surroundings including Haas, Jerry silently thought, if he used magic to stop the entire roller coaster at this time, he wondered if Little Red Star would be included. Come to think of it, these people who are so scared that tears are about to come out on the roller coaster, definitely really want to go down. His behavior of stopping the roller coaster can be regarded as helping others, and there should be little red stars in the account. However, not today, but another day when you have time to come alone, you can give it a try. Roller coasters, jumping machines, haunted houses, these seem to have a chance to get a little red star. They played until after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. After playing almost all the amusement facilities in the playground, the four left the playground hungry and drove to the bustling Broadway to find a place to eat. Water, how does this guy drive? On the street full of traffic, a taxi cut in front of Haas's car in a thrilling manner, and Haas was so angry that he almost cursed, if he hadn't thought that there were 2 children, Aisha and Jerry, in the car. A moment later, when Haas' car stopped at the intersection of traffic lights, Jerry saw the taxi that liked to overtake from the car window, and it slammed to the side of the road with a sudden brake. Then a man and a woman quickly opened the door and rushed out from the car. The man began to inhale and exhale non-stop after getting out of the car, as if he was forcibly controlling his heartbeat, while the woman yelled at the taxi driver angrily. Obviously, she was very dissatisfied with the dangerous driving of the taxi driver. "Jerry, Elsa, look over there. That's Greyburn College, the teacher's alma mater when he was in college. I'll take you in for a stroll after dinner." At this time, teacher Bailey, who was sitting in the co-pilot, pointed to a university on the side of the road ahead, turned around and introduced to Jerry and Aisha with a smile. "Greyburn College is a top-ranked university in New York. Dad hopes that you can also be admitted to such a university in the future." At this time, Haas, who was driving, also interjected. "No problem, Jerry and Aisha are so smart, they will definitely be able to go to a better university than this in the future." Belle encouraged Jerry and Aisha. Haas shook his head secretly. Of course, Jerry is fine. He even thinks that with Jerry's IQ, it is not a big problem to be admitted to MIT. The main reason is that his daughter, who has never passed mathematics, has never passed. Not to mention Greyburn College, whether he can be admitted to a third-rate university in the future is a problem. After eating, it was already 4 o'clock in the afternoon. In order to digest food and let Jerry and Aisha have a look at college life, Haas and Bailey took them into Greyburn College. As expected of a first-class university. Walking on the cobblestone path in Greyburn College, Jerry couldn't help sighing secretly when he looked at the beautiful scenery around him and the youthful college students. In his previous life, he went to a junior college, or that kind of public junior college. The advantage is that the tuition fees are very cheap, but the disadvantage is that the combined area of the entire university is not as large as a quarter of the area of the high school he studied in the county. When he first entered university with a suitcase, if he hadn't considered the financial situation of his family, he almost turned around and went back to repeat his studies. It feels like he was lonely in college in his previous life, maybe he can make up for it in this life. End of this chapter. Chapter 58. As the four wandered around, the sky gradually dimmed. "The steak and cakes in our school cafeteria are very good, I will take you to try them later." Teacher Bailey pointed to a separate building nearby, and suggested with some pride. Since entering Greyburn College, Mrs. Bell seems to have returned to the time when she was in college, and her whole person's state has become much more youthful and lively. "Of course, no problem." Haas had a happy smile on his face. Belle's youthful and girlish side now broke his old man's heart a little bit. Sure enough, men, regardless of their age, like 18-year-olds. Jerry looked at Haas's expression and shook his head secretly. It's normal, he is also a man, so he understands very well. "I'm fine too." Jerry agrees to Belle's proposal. As for Aisha, when she heard that there was cake to eat, she almost shed tears. However, just as the four of them walked towards the cafeteria building, Jerry suddenly frowned and stopped. Because he actually felt a slight vibration from the ground, and then exclamations sounded in his ears, and he turned to look in the direction of the sound. Military jeeps, tanks, and a large number of soldiers wearing camouflage uniforms and holding long guns rushed towards us from the direction of the gate. Sorry, there is an important military operation here, and it needs to be blocked temporarily, please leave now. A soldier with a rifle trotted up to the four of Jerry, then gave a military salute and ordered. Similarly, everyone in the school at this time, whether students or teachers, were invited out of the school by these soldiers. I'm a policeman. Where are you from, the army? Are there any dangerous military operations in the school? Haas took out his ID, his expression became serious. The soldier glanced at Haas' ID, his tone unchanged, sorry for the secret operation, no comment, you can ask your superiors for instructions after you go out. Seeing that the soldiers were unwilling to tell the truth, Haas had no choice but to follow the crowd with Belle and Jerry, and left Greyburn College. Captain Jim, what's going on? Coming to the street outside the school, Haas immediately saw several familiar figures maintaining order. Oh, Captain Haas, you are here too, we don't know what's going on, we just got a temporary notice to come here to maintain order. A sheriff who was leading the maintenance of order shrugged helplessly. They also received orders suddenly while they were driving on patrol, and the orders were only to cooperate with the army's operations, without telling the reason, and they were also very confused. It is definitely not that simple to be able to dispatch an army of this size near such a densely populated street. Haas pondered for a moment, then whispered to Teacher Bailey, honey, I can't accompany you to dinner, you take Jerry and Aisha home in my car, it may be dangerous here. Although Belle was a little worried, she still nodded, took Jerry with one hand and Aisha with the other, and walked towards the parking place. Jerry, on the other hand, was thoughtful, turned his head and glanced in the direction of Greyburn College, and followed Teacher Bailey into the car without saying anything. Meanwhile, Greyburn College teaches uptown. In the laboratory of the famous professor of cytology, Professor Samuel Stern, the couple who got off the taxi that Jerry saw during the day are here at this time. These two people are Dr. Banner and Dr. Betty, who escaped from Corvo University all the way. Bruce Banner, a famous genius scientist, was invited by General Ross to study and replicate the super soldier serum during World War II, thus participating in the Army Biochemical Power Enhancement Project. The experiment went awry, and Dr. Banner was exposed to dangerous gamma radiation, awakening a second form of Green Titan. Dr. Banner, who is well aware of the terrifying power of the Green Titan, has been hiding in various countries in the world for 5 years in order to escape General Ross' experiment. At the same time, I am also trying to learn to control my anger without changing my body, and to find a way to heal myself and return to a normal person. This time I came to Greyburn College in New York because Dr. Samuel here made an antidote that could cure him. With the help of Dr. Samuel and his girlfriend, Dr. Betty, Dr. Banner finally succeeded in suppressing the Green Titan form in his body by injecting the antidote. But at this time, Dr. Banner, who was half cured, had a dispute with Dr. Samuel. It turned out that Dr. Samuel secretly copied a large amount of Banner's blood, hoping to make an antidote that could cure countless incurable diseases, and won the Nobel Prize for this. And Dr. Banner insisted on destroying these blood samples, because he knew that with the ideas of General Ross and others, what they would make would not be an antidote that could cure terminal illnesses, but countless destructive and irrational ones. Monster! Just when the two were arguing, the periphery of the laboratory where they were located was already surrounded by the army led by General Ross. More than a dozen elite snipers aimed at Dr. Banner with tranquilizer sniper rifles. Ready to shoot. Under the command of the commander, the sniper shot Dr. Banner, who could not transform. Afterwards, the soldiers ambushing around rushed in and took Dr. Banner, who was unable to move, out of the laboratory in a bundle. However, just as the soldiers were evacuating, an officer named Emil Brunsky suddenly broke into the laboratory and forced Dr. Samuel to inject him with Dr. Banner's serum, turning him into a man whose size was not inferior to that of a green man. Titan's mighty monster, abomination. Emil Braun-Keith, who originally played for the British Royal Marines, was recruited by General Ross to deal with Dr. Banner, but was broken by the Hulk, who turned into Dr. Banner. Afterwards, he was injected with incomplete super soldier serum, which greatly increased his strength, but his mind was affected and became very irritable and crazy. He wanted to become stronger than Hulk, and then kill Hulk to become the strongest. What happened? Teacher Bailey, who was driving the police car to Queens, was startled by the sudden explosion sound from behind, and quickly stepped on the brakes to stop the police car on the side of the street. Boom! 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 Immediately afterwards, a series of explosions came from the direction of Greyburn College that they had just left. Haas! Hearing the dangerous explosion in the distance, and thinking of those armored vehicles and soldiers with guns that had just driven into the academy, Teacher Bell suddenly felt bad, and a worried look appeared on her face. Originally, she wanted to turn around and drive back to have a look, but when she saw Jerry and Aisha in the car, she finally gave up. Dizzy! Dizzy! 2 magical rays of light flashed in the car, and Mrs. Bailey and Aisha passed out on the seats at the same time. It turned out that Jerry took the opportunity to secretly take out his wand, and secretly cast the sleeping curse on Mrs. Bell in front and Elsa next to her. Fortunately, when I went out today, I secretly put the broomstick in the trunk of the car. Otherwise, it would be too late to run over such a long distance. After getting out of the car, he opened the trunk and took out the guitar bag inside. Jerry was secretly thankful. Thank you, book friends, for your rewards. I will add a new chapter today. If I have time, I will send a special chapter to thank you. There are currently no special circumstances and there will be 2 updates normally. I will try my best to explode the update after it is on the shelves. End of this chapter. Chapter 59 Wizards vs Abomination Part 1. Just seeing a large number of troops appear, Jerry knew that something terrible was going to happen. Because even if it is a terrorist attack, there is no need to dispatch tanks and armored vehicles in this urban area. At the same time, this also means that there may be a large number of small red stars about to appear. Gencho's cooldown period is about to end, and his little red star reserves are not enough, so this opportunity arises. Originally, he wanted to stay with Haas to observe, but in the situation just now, I am afraid that Haas would never let him stay for whatever reason he used, so he could only get in the car with Teacher Bell and leave. It wasn't until Mrs. Bailey stopped the car that he took the opportunity to secretly take out his wand and whispered the sleeping spell. Putting his guitar bag on his back, just to be on the safe side, he cast a locking spell on the police car before sneaking into the dark alley next to the street. Putting on a wizard suit and riding a broom, Jerry accelerated and flew towards the place where the explosion occurred in the distance. Greyburn College, an ugly khaki-colored titan 5 meters tall jumped out of the window of the laboratory building. He was still carrying the corpses of 2 soldiers whose bones had been crushed by him. It was the injection of banner serum that turned into the abominable Colonel Braun Keith. Roar! With a roar of excitement, Hate threw the corpse in his hand on the ground, then jumped more than 10 meters, and ran towards the street outside the school. Seeing this, the soldiers who had not completely evacuated along the road took up their weapons in fright and started shooting at him. However, these bullets hit Abomination's body like hitting a steel plate, unable to cause him any harm at all. On the other hand, those elite soldiers, as long as they were swept lightly by him, they would basically not die but be seriously injured. Even tanks and armored vehicles will still be bent by him and thrown out directly. The powerful strength and defensive ability made the Abomination fearless of the weapon attack of the modern army. As if he had opened Wushuan all the way, he directly smashed through the army and rushed to the street outside the school. Since Greyburn College is located near Broadway, even though it was briefly blocked by the army and police, there were still a large number of onlookers outside. The army and the police blocked the university. How can we not take out our mobile phone to take a picture of this situation and post it on Facebook, by the way? Even many reporters were moved by the news and squeezed outside the blockade, waiting for a while to get some big news. Boom! 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 A series of explosions and gunshots suddenly sounded, and then the huge body of Hate fell from the sky and landed on the roof of a taxi on the street. Crack! The taxi and the driver inside were instantly crushed, leaving blood on the ground. Hulk, come out! The eyes of hatred are full of bloodthirsty and cruelty. After a loud roar, he directly picked up a car with one hand and smashed it into the crowd of onlookers. The screams, and cries suddenly rang out. God, what the hell is that? Outside the blockade, Haas and other police officers who maintained order saw the appearance of the Abomination, and they were all frightened and stunned. But when they saw that the Abomination began to slaughter wantonly, they immediately reacted and took out their pistols to shoot at the Abomination. The bullet hit Abomination, although it couldn't hurt it, it could make him feel a little pain and attract his attention. Sure enough, Hate ignored those weak chicken-like people, but turned around and locked his eyes on the location of Haas and other policemen. He sneered, picked up a big bus next to him, lifted it up with both hands, and slammed it towards Haas and others. No, flash! Seeing the bus hitting them, Haas and the others quickly rolled behind them to dodge. However, the speed at which they rolled was nowhere near the speed of a bus hitting them, and the size of the bus was not comparable to that of ordinary cars. Seeing that Haas and several policemen were about to be completely wiped out by the smashing bus, a hurried voice suddenly sounded from high in the sky, Wingardim, Leviosa. A blue magic ray precisely hit the bus, temporarily fixing it in the air. Everyone looked up, and saw a child wearing a wizard's robe and a wizard's hat, riding a broom, who did not know when he came to the sky above them. It was the little wizard who was very famous during this time. Get out of the way, my magic won't last long. Seeing that Haas and the others froze in place, Jerry hurriedly shouted. The floating spell he used just now is a spell that can make objects float in the air. But now with his level of magic, he couldn't hold on to something as heavy as a bus with the levitation charm for a few seconds. Haas and the others had no time to thank them after hearing the words, and quickly escaped from the coverage of the bus. Boom! The big bus finally crashed to the ground. Seeing that Haas was fine, Jerry was slightly relieved, and then looked up at the initiator in front of him. As soon as he came, he saw Haas was in danger, and he didn't have time to figure out what was going on. Hiss! What kind of monster is this? It doesn't look like a green titan. Seeing the 5-meter-tall, muscular, and ugly abomination, Jerry also gasped. Such a big guy looks a bit like the Green Titan in the Avengers. But he clearly remembered that the Green Titan was all green except for his hair, but this guy's whole body was an ugly khaki. The key point is that since Titan is a member of the Avengers, he must belong to the side of justice, and this guy has a brutal face and a murderous appearance, which doesn't look like a righteous superhero. Sheriff, what's going on here? Without going forward immediately, Jerry first cautiously asked Haas about the situation. However, Haas is also confused. We don't know, we just saw that guy jumped out of the school. Could it be that this school is doing some kind of biological experiment, and then the monster that came out of the experiment? In fact, it is normal for Jerry to have such thoughts. Because in his impression, many monsters and villains in the Marvel world were created when scientists or biologists conducted experiments. For example, the Green Goblin, Dr. Octopus, and Sandman in the Spider-Man trilogy he has seen are not all the products of scientific experiments. The big guy in front of him is probably no exception. Sheriff, you lead people to evacuate the crowd, move those injured to a safe place, and I will attract his attention. Okay, then be careful, that monster is not afraid of bullets, so it's hard to deal with. Haas nodded when he heard the words, and ran towards the injured crowd with other policemen. Since pistols can't hurt the opponent, they will still be delivering food if they rush forward, so it's better to rescue the injured people, which can still play some role. And after Jerry finished speaking, he also accelerated on his broomstick, and rushed towards the abomination who was roaring and throwing cars. End of this chapter. Chapter 60 Wizard vs Abomination. Hulk, come out quickly, there is no one who can fight. Hate grabbed it, and the rockets fired by the soldiers on the military jeep in the distance, squeezed hard, and the rockets exploded. But he was unscathed by the explosion of the rocket, and he pushed aside the car blocking the route, roaring and ran towards the jeep. All petrified. Suddenly, a blue magic light shot at his back from a height. A strange magical force spread all over his body, instantly freezing him in place. It turned out that it was Jerry who escaped behind him from a high altitude and secretly cast a full body binding spell on him. Roar! It's a pity that after only a pause, the abomination roared again, broke free from the shackles of the body binding spell, and ruthlessly threw itself at Jerry in the air. So close! At this time, Jerry also turned on the Superman mode, and his 5 senses were quite keen. He pulled up the broomstick immediately, avoiding the jumping attack of the abomination. With the power shown by hatred now, even if he was in Superman mode and was slapped with a slap, he would definitely be dead. It's just that he didn't expect that his whole body binding spell could only hold the opponent for less than a second, and then he was completely freed. But if you think about it, it's normal. According to the study of magic theory during this period, he knew that the fundamental principle of the body binding spell was to use the power of magic to bind a person's body so that his limbs could not move. But the size of the binding power depends on the magic level of the wizard. With Jerry's current level of magic, of course there is no big problem for ordinary people. Even if it is released on ordinary adult wizards, it can basically be frozen for a long time, because the physical strength of ordinary wizards is not much stronger than that of ordinary people. However, using the whole body binding spell to deal with large magical animals such as fire dragons and titans is basically difficult to produce effects. On the one hand, they have high magic resistance, and on the other hand, their physical strength is strong. Ordinary wizards can't restrain them at all with the magical power of the body binding spell. The current abomination is the same as the titan in the wizarding world, but obviously the power and defense of the abomination are several grades stronger than the ordinary titan. Damned! Seeing that the body binding spell was useless, Jerry swooped around again and cast a sleeping spell on the back of the hated head. The abomination who was hit by the sleeping spell did not go into a coma directly like Teacher Bailey and Aisha just now, but was dizzy for about 2 seconds, and then regained consciousness with a shake of his head. The effect of the sleeping spell is mainly aimed at the spirit, which is obviously better than the effect of the body binding spell, but it is also difficult to directly feint it like it is for ordinary people. Perhaps it was aware of Jerry's attack. Compared with those modern weapons, he was more threatening to himself. He hated the soldiers who shot at him and the fleeing crowd immediately, and jumped towards Jerry again. It's not that easy. Jerry sped up on the broom, dodged the attack of the abomination, and then threw a fuchsia curse on it. However, it may be because the size of the abomination is too large, and his fuchsia curse is not proficient enough, so it didn't have any effect. In this way, Jerry, relying on his small size and fast enough reaction speed, kept harassing the abomination with all kinds of magic like a mosquito, fully filling the hatred value, so that the abomination had no time to harm the fleeing crowd. After some experiments, Jerry also found that most of the magic is difficult to have an effect on hatred. The currently useful ones are the sleeping curse, the shadowless curse, the toenail growth curse, and the snot curse. The sleeping spell can make the abomination stunned for 2 seconds, and using the god's shadowless curse to attack the abomination's eyes, ears, mouth, nose, genitals, and back door, although it can't break the defense, it can still cause him a lot of pain. The toenail growth charm made his toenails grow longer, hindering his movement. The snot curse can make it run continuously during battle, which is equivalent to blessing a negative state, but the abomination has no cleanliness and obsessive-compulsive disorder, so the hindering effect is not great. To sum up, none of these spells could cause any direct damage to the abomination. At most, it could only be said to disgust him, so that he could continue to maintain his anger towards himself instead of hurting others. Fortunately, although Jerry cannot cause damage to the abomination, it is also difficult for the abomination to cause any harm to Jerry. Because of Jerry's small stature, the broomstick has been used for a period of time, and it has basically achieved the integration of human and sweeper. With the blessing of the 5 senses in Superman mode, his position is also quite coquettish. No matter how much the abomination jumps, he can't catch him. Now the abomination is like a Donkey Kong of the animal kingdom, and Jerry is a bird. Donkey Kong can slap the bird to death, but as long as the bird doesn't land, it can't do anything with the bird. Even if it can throw stones at birds, it is basically difficult to hit the birds flying around. But the little bird can fly over its head for a while, airborne a pile of bird feces disgusting, it is furious. However, good times don't last long, after all, hatred is not King Kong. Although affected by the potion, it has become very tyrannical, but its IQ has not yet completely dropped to the level of King Kong. After some entanglement, he quickly found a way to deal with Jerry. He had a car in his hand, and whenever Jerry fired magic at him, he used one of them as a shield to block the magic light so that the magic would not fall on him. At the same time, another car is used as a weapon to attack or throw when Jerry wants to get closer to release magic more accurately. The attack area of the car is large, and it is difficult to dodge. A few times, it almost slammed into Jerry's body. It made him dare not get too close to cast a magic attack, so he had to reopen the distance and float in midair. By the way, restore most of the mana points that have just been consumed. Little ant, come down, I will crush you into meatloaf. Seeing that Jerry was hanging high in the sky, and the few cars he threw were flashed by him nimbly, he immediately roared angrily. Of course, Jerry wouldn't be so stupid that he would immediately go down to seek death after being provoked by the hatred. Besides, he didn't have much magic power. From the corner of his eye, he glanced at the nearby place that had just been ravaged by hatred. There, Haas and a few policemen, taking advantage of Jerry attracting the attention of the abomination, took the risk of carrying those wounded and unable to move, one by one, to a safe place far away. Looking at his attribute panel again, the number of little red stars is growing upwards like a rocket. It seems that we have to continue to spread hatred. Jerry's eyes brightened. End of this chapter. Chapter 61 Wizard vs. Abomination, Part 2. To be honest, it was also the first time for him to have such a thrilling and high-intensity battle like today. In the past, he dealt with ordinary robbery cases, theft cases, R cases, and so on. Although the opponent has a pistol and a rifle, he is just an ordinary person. When passing by on a broomstick, throwing a magic spell at him will be enough. But facing the hatred, if he made any mistakes just now, he would be smashed into a ball of meat by its powerful force. However, for Little Red Star, sometimes it is worth taking a little risk. I saw Jerry riding on a broomstick, looking down at the hatred, and slowly stretched out his left hand. Hate thought that Jerry was going to cast some magic again, and quickly tightened the military jeep in his hand, blocking most of his body. Big idiot, you, come here. Jerry stretched out the index finger of his left hand, slightly bent it, and loudly challenged the abomination below. FK, how could this hatred be tolerated? His eyes burst into red instantly, his legs kicked hard, and he smashed towards Jerry together with the two cars in his hand. Slightly, you can't hit me, you just can't hit me, I'm flying over again, I'm flying away again, idiot, big idiot. Jerry hugged his broomstick tightly, and stopped using magic attacks. He kept coquettishly moving around to dodge the attacks of hatred, and the provocative words in his mouth continued one after another, causing his hatred to explode. He was beaten twice by the Green Titan before, but he finally obtained a powerful strength with the genetic potion, and he was no longer inferior to the Green Titan. I never thought that I would encounter such a disgusting thing when I didn't look handsome for 5 seconds just after I appeared on the stage. BD, come down for me. Come here. You come down. Come here. Dot. Boom. 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 The angry hatred smashed his fists to the ground fiercely, venting the anger in his heart. The powerful force smashed the ground full of cracks, and Jerry bared his teeth in the air. Ever since Jerry came along, he's been getting beat up, not hurt, but too emotionally involved. It was hard to think of a way to restrain the other party, but he didn't expect the other party to play a rogue with him, and he stayed in the air and couldn't come down. This is several times more aggrieved than being scolded by others on the internet, and then being blocked after scolding but unable to refute. Seeing that Jerry refused to come down, he hated forcing himself to calm down, and then his heart moved. He ignored Jerry's ridicule, but went to the other side where Haas and the crowd who were evacuating chased after him. Obviously, at this moment, he already understood that Jerry was delaying in protecting those people. As long as he chased and killed those people, Jerry would definitely come down to stop them, and then he would have a chance to crush the little bug. Fack. With an angry curse, Jerry knew something was wrong, so he had to speed up and chase after him on his broomstick. He doesn't care about other people's life or death, at most he earns less red stars, but Haas is also among those people, so Jerry can't care less. If it doesn't work, he can only rescue Haas first. And at this moment, a military helicopter flew over from a distance, and then a figure jumped out of the helicopter, smashing fiercely into the street between the abomination and the evacuated crowd. Time back to 10 minutes ago. General Ross is taking a helicopter gunship to personally escort Dr. Banner and his daughter, Dr. Betty, to the secret military base of Country M. The communicator on the helicopter suddenly received an emergency notification in the headset, and hurriedly turned his head and handed the walkie-talkie to General Ross. General, there is an emergency and you need to answer it yourself. General Ross took over the walkie-talkie with some doubts, and there was an extremely panicked report from the soldiers. Hulk is on the street, repeat, Hulk is on the street. What? General Ross immediately turned his head to look at Dr. Banner, who was under control. Seeing that he was indeed staying there, he was slightly relieved and said, "This is impossible, soldier, calm down, you first calm down, tell me where you are now." "General, we're on 121st Street, going north on Broadway." When the soldier replied, the shouts of the soldiers nearby, the screams of the crowd, and the sound of explosions were also transmitted along the walkie-talkie. General Ross, who noticed something was wrong, first ordered the helicopter to turn around and head to Block 121, and then shouted at the soldier on the other end of the walkie-talkie, "Quick, find a way to pass on the situation at the scene." "Yes, General." As General Ross put down the walkie-talkie, a small TV in the cabin suddenly lit up, followed by a shaky live video. In the picture, the abomination is wreaking havoc on the streets crazily, and the army's guns can't do anything to him at all. The casualties of the soldiers and the masses continued to grow amid the roar of hatred, like a purgatory on earth. And the soldier who had just communicated, while reporting information to the camera, took out a bazooka from the box next to him. He picked up the bazooka and aimed it at the raging abomination. A rocket was launched with a bang, but was grabbed and crushed by the opponent without any injuries. "Your experiment?" Dr. Banner asked General Ross angrily. Dr. Betty on the side looked at his father with an expression of disbelief. "Oh God, what have you done?" Facing the accusations from the two, General Ross also looked confused. Although his purpose is to use Dr. Banner to create a bunch of controllable super fighters. But it hasn't started yet. Dr. Banner has just been captured. He is still worrying about how to carry out the next experiment if Dr. Banner returns to normal and the blood in his body returns to normal. Why did such a guy appear? The point is, this guy wreaks havoc in the city center, and when the time comes, he, the general, will also be held accountable. "Look, what's that?" At this moment, Dr. Betty suddenly pointed to the small TV in surprise. It turned out that just as the abomination was rushing towards the soldier who fired the rocket, a child riding a broom and wearing a wizard suit appeared behind the abomination. I saw the child waving a small stick in his hand, continuously shooting rays of light towards the abomination, hitting the abomination and roaring again and again, and soon completely attracted the attention of the abomination, and the crisis was temporarily lifted. This child is none other than Jerry, who rushed over after saving Haas. General Ross and Banner looked at Jerry on the TV with doubts on their faces. Obviously, they didn't know this little guy riding a broom. End of this chapter. Chapter 62. The Siege without martial virtue. Jerry is known to many people in Queens because of the last fire rescue incident. However, he is not that well known to New York as a whole, and he is still far behind in the whole country and the world. Therefore, General Ross, who has been tracking Dr. Banner, and Dr. Banner, who has been on the run, have never heard the story about the wizard. His name is a wizard, and he is a superhero who often haunts Queens. He will use some magical abilities to fight criminals and save people in trouble. At this time, a SHIELD logistics agent who was assisting General Ross in the cabin slowly revealed Jerry's information. Can he handle this big guy? General Ross looked at the small TV, and Jerry surrounded him with abhorrence, emitting streaks of blue magic light, and couldn't help showing a worried look. From the looks of it now, I'm afraid it can only serve as a temporary restraint. After observing for a while, the SHIELD logistics agent frowned, seeing that the abomination was intact under Jerry's magic. Call all the troops over here. Hearing the judgment of the SHIELD agents, General Ross took a deep breath. Even if this monster can be solved now, it is estimated that most of Broadway will be destroyed, and he will bear the blame for it. Let me go down. At this time, Dr. Banner said with firm eyes. He knew that if that guy was as powerful as the Hulk, the army's weapons would be useless at all, and more people would just die, that's all. Only the Hulk can defeat the opponent. What are you saying? Dr. Betty became anxious immediately. In her opinion, Banner had been injected with the antidote, and it was very likely that he had become a normal person. Wouldn't it be better to die now? However, at this time, Dr. Banner actually knew in his heart that the Hulk might not have disappeared, and as long as he was in danger, the Hulk would still come out. Seeing the small TV, the abomination abandoned Jerry and rushed towards the fleeing crowd. General Ross finally gave the order to open the hatch of the helicopter. Dr. Banner also jumped down after saying goodbye to Dr. Betty. This jump, he was not 100% sure in his heart, but he had to jump, because he felt that he was also responsible for what happened. If he had not agreed to General Ross to participate in the experiment, these things would not have happened. FK, what's going on? Jerry, who had just caught up with the abomination who hadn't come to attack, saw a figure suddenly falling down from the armed helicopter flying from high above, and he was shocked and immediately pulled away again. I thought it was some kind of guy sent by the military, but I saw that the figure didn't land handsomely, but smashed into the ground. Similarly, Abomination was also taken aback by this sudden situation. But before he could react, a familiar roar came from the ground, Hulk. Immediately afterwards, a green titan not much smaller than the abomination punched open the stone buried in his body, and jumped out from the ground. Hulk, I've been waiting for you for a long time, let's fight it out. When Hate saw Hulk appearing, his eyes suddenly shone with excitement. He no longer cared about those ordinary people like ants and the fly that kept harassing him in the air, and rushed towards Hulk. And Hulk also shook his dizzy head from falling from a high altitude, and rushed towards the abomination with a loud roar. Long so green, this should be the veritable Green Titan. Seeing that a heavyweight helper finally appeared, Jerry was greatly relieved. At present, with his magical strength, it is still very difficult to face the big yellow monster in front of him alone. If he is not good, he may be photographed as meat sauce. However, not long after he was happy, he saw the Green Titan being violently knocked out in the passionate collision with the abomination, and soon fell into a disadvantage in the battle. It turned out that although Dr. Samuel's antidote did not really eliminate Hulk, it also suppressed his strength. Although he has successfully awakened now, Hulk's strength is not at its peak. Quick, help him with a machine gun. At this time, General Ross on the helicopter quickly shouted orders to the soldiers manipulating the heavy-duty airborne machine guns. Which one will you help? The soldier looked puzzled at the two big guys huddled together. General Ross took a picture of his head. Of course it's the green guy. Which one do you want to help? Shoot the other one in half. Ross. Feeling the hail of bullets from the top of his head, he roared in disgust, jumped onto the wall of a nearby building, and rushed to the top of the building with his hands and feet like a gorilla. Then he jumped towards the armed helicopter in the air. Due to the speed of abomination, the gunship had no time to raise the height, and he grabbed the lower edge of the hatch, and squeezed the machine gun into scrap metal as soon as he stretched out his hand. However, just as he was about to reach out to attack General Ross and the others in the cabin, Hulk, who reacted, followed him, grabbed Abomination's ankle, and kept trying to drag him off the helicopter. Under the extraordinary weight and shaking of the two titans, the gunship immediately began to shake. Seeing that the armed helicopter was difficult to control due to external force, it crashed into the building next to it, and a small figure suddenly appeared next to the armed straight-body machine. It was Jerry, who rushed over on a broomstick. Just now I told you to come up, but you didn't come up, but now you come up instead. I think you should go down. Fainted. With a finger of Jerry's wand, a beam of magical light shot directly at him, which could not be avoided at this time, and there was no abomination of any occluders, knocking him out. Although the sleeping curse can only have an effect on the abomination for 2 seconds, it is completely enough at this time. During the 2 seconds of being in a coma, the arm of the abomination holding on to the lower edge of the cabin softened instantly, and under the force of the Hulk below, the two titans fell down together. Wingardim Leviosa. Getting rid of the abomination, Jerry hastily threw a levitation spell at the tilted helicopter gunship, temporarily stabilizing it. The pilot who was driving the armed helicopter was obviously also an elite in the army. Seeing that the fuselage was stable, he immediately performed a dazzling operation, which brought the helicopter back to its normal state. Fly higher, or it's too dangerous, I'll go down and help. Seeing that the helicopter was fine, Jerry yelled at General Ross and the others in the cabin, and rode a broomstick to rush towards the Hulk and the abomination who were huddled together below. Although, his magic can't hurt the abomination, but he can be a good support. Abomination can slightly suppress Hulk now, but it is only a slight advantage. It is not easy to resist his magic with free hands. Add a new chapter for the first deacon in this book, Uncle Jerry. End of this chapter. Chapter 63 Damned. Jerry in Superman mode is very insidious, looking for all kinds of blind spots in the battle vision of the abomination, and then Baihu puts a sleeping spell on him, giving him a 2-second sleepiness. And Hulk took the opportunity to suppress him under his body, and beat his head wildly. Hate was violently awakened by Hulk, pushed Hulk hard, and pressed Hulk under him. Damned. Jerry threw a stun spell again, hating the stun. Hulk pressed the hatred under his body, and hammered wildly again. Abomination awakens, suppresses Hulk, Jerry stunning curse, Hulk suppresses Abomination, Abomination awakens, suppresses Hulk, Jerry stunning curse. The style of painting suddenly becomes strange. After dozens of rounds of endless loops like this, finally, Hate's eyes were blank, his limbs were limp on the ground, and he didn't move at all. Under the joint siege of Hulk and Jerry, two guys who don't speak martial arts, Hate was beaten unilaterally for more than 10 minutes with almost no ability to resist. At this time, his spirit and body were close to collapse. Who am I? Where am I? What am I going to do? Wouldn't it be nice for me to take the military supplies and retire home? Why do I have to forcefully inject this ghost genetic potion and be humiliated and beaten like this? At this time, the hatred finally came to his senses. There is still another mountain. If he can survive, he will never fight again. Don't underestimate any support. especially the support that is good at control. Jerry put away his wand a little out of breath. The mana he recovered with difficulty in the air just now was almost consumed. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that his god's shadowless curse wasn't powerful enough to break through the defense of the abomination, he would have been able to kill the abomination with just the stun spell control and the shadowless god's edge spell. However, although the abomination has strong power and defensive capabilities, it is still much worse than Hulk after all. The more Hulk fights, the stronger he gets, the more angry he becomes, as if there is no upper limit. But hatred is normal. The more you fight, the weaker you become. The more you fight, your strength, stamina and defense will drop like normal people. After all, what the abomination injects is only the imperfect super soldier serum and the green titan serum copied from Dr. Banner's body, which are just defective products. Seeing that the hatred's resistance was getting weaker and weaker, and finally it didn't move at all, General Ross ordered the helicopter to land slowly. Seeing the surviving soldiers holding up their guns and surrounding the Green Titan again, General Ross waved his hand and told them to put down their guns and retreat first. At this time, Rose's attitude towards the Green Titan has obviously changed a lot. Big brother, happy cooperation. At this time, Jerry, who had recovered some of his magic power, was lying on the ground on a broomstick, and the dying abomination who was hammered looked at him, and raised his hand to give Hulk a thumbs up. It still has to be you, Hulk. Hulk replied to Jerry, as if thanking him for his help just now. Although Hulk is a little naive, he is not without wisdom. On the contrary, his heart is more sensitive than normal people. He likes everyone who reaches out to help him and recognizes him. He could still feel Jerry's tone of sincere praise just now. At this time, General Ross and Dr. Betty also came over together. Betty. Hulk glanced at Dr. Betty with nostalgia, then looked at more and more armed helicopters in the sky, jumped up, and after a few big jumps, he disappeared from everyone's sight. At this time, the police and the crowd had basically evacuated, but there were still many soldiers who had just fought the abomination because of their injuries, lying in every corner and howling. Quick healing. After making a deal with Ross and the others, Jerry used his limited magic power to cast the quick healing curse on the wounds of the seriously injured soldiers. The quick healing charm is a spell upgraded by Snape based on the normal healing spell. It can not only heal the wound, but also remove the curse left in the wound. Jerry's quick healing charm was limited, and he couldn't completely heal these seriously injured soldiers, but he was able to stop their bleeding and send them to the hospital for surgery and rescue. And this scene was also seen by the SHIELD logistics agent who had been following General Ross. Thank you so much. A seriously injured sniper finally stopped bleeding under Jerry's quick healing spell. Small matter, by the way, is this a sniper rifle? After the last seriously injured person was dealt with, Jerry picked up the sniper rifle next to him and asked curiously. Seeing the savior Jerry, the sniper was interested in his sniper rifle, and immediately explained weakly, "Yes, but this is not an ordinary sniper rifle, but a narcotic sniper rifle, which was originally used to deal with Green Titans." Hearing the anesthesia sniper rifle, Jerry's eyes lit up immediately, then nodded, and put the sniper rifle on his back. "This is my reward for saving you, Sniper." Ignoring the stunned sniper, Jerry picked up the sniper rifle, waved his wand, and summoned his broom with a summoning spell. "Okay, since I have nothing to do, I will withdraw first. There is still a music tuition class tomorrow. Goodbye." Riding on the broomstick, he waved to General Ross and the agents of the SHIELD logistics department who were walking towards him. Before they could answer, he turned his head and flew away. "General, he took my sniper rifle." Seeing General Ross approaching, the sniper reported helplessly. "Forget it, let's treat it as a gift to him. If it wasn't for him on the helicopter just now, we would be in danger, and his, magic is more powerful than a narcotic sniper rifle. The tranquilizing sniper rifle is useless against the abomination, but the magic of that little wizard can stun the abomination." At this time, the agent of the SHIELD logistics department quietly walked to a place where there was no one else, and reported in a low voice to the microphone hidden under the collar, "The target has left, the target has left." In a building 10 kilometers away, Agent Maria Hill heard the report in the headset and issued an order to a staff member wearing the same SHIELD uniform, "Send a drone to follow him. Remember, although the opponent is young, he is very cautious, don't let the tracking drone get too close." After she finished speaking, she turned her head and looked at another staff member and asked, "How about the Green Titan?" "Report, sir, the Green Titan has left the city and has entered the forest area, but it is still under our drone surveillance. The staff member who was questioned stared closely at the screen and reported. No, our drone was found destroyed. At this time, the first staff member who was ordered to start the drone to track Jerry looked at the screen that suddenly went black, and let out an exclamation. End of this chapter. Chapter 64 Rich rewards. This SHIELD is really ruthless. Fortunately, I didn't turn off refresh, otherwise I would really be discovered. When he left Street 121 just now, he felt like he was being watched. Just in case, he accelerated and turned around immediately. Sure enough, he saw a drone not far away that was too late to hide. So several consecutive Shenfeng Wuying curses passed over, splitting it into scrap iron. Putting away his wand, Jerry didn't stay in the air, but rushed into the alley below on his broomstick. Next, he intends to continue on through the alley below. Although the speed will be slower, it is more secure. After flying around for more than 10 minutes, he finally returned safely to the alley where Mr. Bell parked his car. Putting the broomstick, narcotic sniper rifle and wizard suit into the guitar bag, Jerry, who was restored to his original state, walked out of the alley calmly. He reached out to open the trunk, put the guitar bag back to its original position, opened the car door with an unlocking spell, sat back to the previous position, and waved his magic wand. Quick recovery. Everything, back to the original appearance. What's wrong with me? Teacher Bailey slowly opened her eyes, showing a confused look. Why did she seem to be asleep? Teacher, you seemed to be too worried about Dad just now, so you fainted from excitement. Jerry explained with a serious face. Is that right? Teacher Bailey was stunned for a moment, but she quickly thought of something, and immediately opened the door and got out of the car to look in the direction of Mr. Greyburn. But at this time there was no sound of artillery roaring. Teacher, if you are really worried, you can call Dad. Jerry pressed the car window and made a suggestion to Mrs. Bell. And Teacher Bailey also woke up like a dream, and quickly took out her mobile phone and started calling. After a conversation, Mrs. Bell took a sigh of relief and sat back in the car. It's okay. Your father said he's okay. He's on his way to send the wounded to the hospital. It might be a little later before he can go home. That's good. Jerry, who had known the situation for a long time, nodded with a smile. Hey, is Aisha asleep too? Teacher Bailey didn't hear Aisha's voice, and turned her head to look behind. Yeah, maybe I'm tired from playing in the amusement park today. Jerry didn't lift Aisha's sleeping spell just now, so Aisha is now lying in the back snoring and sleeping soundly. Then let's go back first. After putting Elsa's head on his lap to make her sleep more comfortably, Jerry silently opened his strange panel. Fighting so hard this time and saving so many people and soldiers, the number of little red stars should not be low. 50,000. Although he knew it would not be less, when he saw the number of little red stars on the panel, he almost couldn't help crying out. You know, he worked hard for a month before, patrolling around on a broomstick every night, doing good deeds and fighting crimes, and he only accumulated 20,000 little red stars in total. However, today he earned 30,000 coins in one night, and he is not considered the main force, which really caught him by surprise. It seems that it is still necessary to participate more in such dangerous events, so that the panel can give him more little red stars. In fact, Jerry still hasn't fully understood what is going on with the small red star reward system on the panel. Originally, he understood whether it was something similar to the power of cause and effect and merit. But it doesn't matter if he does bad things, even if he creates disasters or saves himself, it doesn't conform to the rules of merit, virtue, and cause and effect that he understands. Moreover, he also discovered that there was a strange feature in the way he obtained this little red star. That is, although it is said that there is a little red star reward for doing good deeds, it is not entirely like this. For example, when he helped the old lady cross the road, there was little red star, and when he helped the old lady throw out the trash, there was little red star. But if he gave money to the grandmother, there would be no little red star, and if he gave money to beggars on the roadside, there would be no little red star. And sometimes, for the same thing, little red star gives different amounts. For example, in the same robbery incident, the robber is holding a knife and the robber is holding a pistol, the robber is thin and the robber is tall, the number of little red stars he will give after solving it is also different. Anyway, it's fascinating. It seemed that he had to participate in it himself, and the stronger and more dangerous the enemy was, the more people he saved, the more his little red stars would grow. 8 in the morning, Teacher Bailey, who was only wearing a baggy men's white vest, came out of the room yawning. When speaking with Haas yesterday, Haas said that he might be busy tonight, so after sending Jerry and Aisha home, Mrs. Bell did not leave. She woke up early today, planning to cook some oatmeal for the 2 children, then bake bread and fry an egg. In the future, she might be the mother of 2 children, and she can no longer sleep in carefree like when she is alone at home. However, as soon as she walked into the living room, she was stunned. "Jerry, you got up so early." "Good morning, Mrs. Bell. I'm used to getting up early. By the way, I've prepared breakfast. It's a Chinese-style breakfast. I don't know if it suits your taste." Jerry, who was sitting on the sofa, put away the magic book in his hand, and said to Teacher Bailey, who was standing there with a smile, "Appetite." Teacher Bailey looked at the rich breakfast on the table, and pointed in the direction of the bathroom in a daze. "That. I'm going to wash up. It is good." Jerry nodded. What suddenly, Teacher Bell's exclamation came from the bathroom. "What's wrong?" Jerry ran over in a hurry. Teacher Bailey pointed to the clothes basket next to the washing machine in the bathroom, and murmured a little at a loss, "Where's the clothes I changed yesterday?" "Oh, when I washed the clothes in the morning, I washed them all by hand, and now they are drying on the balcony." "Teacher, put on Dad's clothes first, and they should be dry in 2 hours." It was only then that Jerry remembered that when he used the housework magic in the morning, Mrs. Bell and the clothes they changed yesterday had washed themselves clean under the magic, and then hung them on the balcony. This Teacher Bell looked at Jerry. She was extremely suspicious now that when she entered this home, she would take care of the 2 children by herself or be taken care of by the children. "Okay, teacher, you have to hurry up, the breakfast will be too cold later and it won't taste good." Jerry gave some instructions, and went back to the living room to read. In fact, Jerry has now faintly discovered that this Teacher Bell doesn't seem to be very good at cooking and doing housework, and it is estimated that it will be difficult to count on her to take over the cooking and housework in the future. It's not that Mrs. Bell doesn't want to, but if she's not very good at it, Jerry thinks it's better to do it by himself. After all, he wasn't used to oatmeal and toast in the morning. Besides, now that he is proficient in housework magic, it really doesn't take much time, and he can get it done with a wave of his wand. "It seems that I will take care of one more person in this family in the future. Maybe this is the real truth. The greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. At home, the more people you know, the more work you do." End of this chapter. Chapter 65. End of cooling time. In fact, this cannot be blamed on Teacher Bell. After all, Teacher Bell is only in her 20s, and she has just graduated from college for 3 years. For a girl of this normal age, if you expect her to have too much housework ability, that's not realistic. Being able to live independently and support yourself is pretty good. And as far as Jerry knows, Mrs. Bell's family conditions should be very good, otherwise as a primary school teacher, she couldn't drive a Hummer to school every morning. Although Belle is Jerry's teacher and future stepmother, in fact, in terms of psychological age, Jerry is 10 years older than Belle. So, just take care of an older sister. "Where's Aisha?" Belle picked up a crystal clear shrimp dumpling and put it in her mouth. Her eyes lit up immediately. "Aisha, she's still asleep. I guess she was tired from playing yesterday. School will start tomorrow, let her sleep a little longer." Jerry replied casually, then raised his head and said to Teacher Bailey, "Teacher, you can eat freely. Aisha and Dad's breakfast, I've put it in the kitchen to keep warm, and the table is all yours." "Oh God, did you reincarnate an angel into the world? Not only did I get up in the morning and finish all the housework, but I also made breakfast, which was so delicious and thoughtful. This should be the legendary full-level human child." Crack! At this time, the door opened, and it turned out that Haas had returned with a tired face. "Good morning, Jerry." "Belle. Oh, today's breakfast looks very rich. After a busy night, I'm going to starve to death." SHIELD headquarters in Washington. That's how things are. Dr. Banner's trail has always been under our control, but we still can't confirm the true identity of that little wizard. Agent Hill reported all the details of the New York operation to Director Fury. Fury sat on the chair, tapped his fingers on the table, watched some videos of Jerry fighting with the abomination projected on the wall, and the video of rescuing seriously injured soldiers, and sighed, "This little wizard, although young, is not simple." Since Fury met Captain Marvel more than 10 years ago, he was involved in the dispute between the Kree and the Skrulls, and learned that the Earth is not the only intelligent race, and there are many other races in the universe. He has been preparing an Avengers plan that can resist alien forces. Originally, Jerry, a little wizard who can do magic, was not considered in his plan. Asking Hill to go to New York to investigate Jerry is actually just a matter of handling the Green Titan. Like routine, it's what SHIELD does. However, after going through this incident, Fury felt that although the little wizard was a little younger, he still met the requirements of his Avengers plan. First of all, Jerry has been fighting crime since he appeared until now, just like a vigilante. Although he would charge a little fee every time, it was only a symbolic amount. Generally speaking, in terms of character, it met his most basic requirements for Avengers members. Looking at his style of doing things, he is bold, careful, and cautious. Even the SHIELD Bureau has not yet found out his true identity, so it can be seen. The Avengers that the Avengers plan needs, of course, are those who are brave and resourceful, not just a reckless one. The only point is that Jerry is a child, and it is a little unreasonable for a child to participate in dangerous operations. But fortunately, judging from the current analysis of Jerry's abilities, he doesn't need to be at the forefront, just put a magic that can control Abomination next to him. Of course, the most important thing, and what Fury values the most now, is that at the end of the video, Jerry used magic to temporarily maintain the injury of a dying soldier. To allow him to persevere until he was rescued in the hospital, the miraculous healing magic, this is a special ability that no one has mastered among the Avengers he is currently looking for. Perhaps, it's time for me to take some time to meet this little wizard in person. In the evening, Mrs. Bell had already left, and Haas had been busy all night, so he had slept in the morning after breakfast and hadn't woken up until now. Jerry and Elsa are sitting on the sofa watching TV. At this time, some blurry videos were playing on the TV, which were the scenes of the battle between the Abomination, the Green Titan and Jerry that the journalists risked their lives on the periphery yesterday. In the face of such a dangerous situation yesterday, some reporters who were still not afraid of death did not escape, but hid in some corners and secretly shot some videos. Jerry can only lament the adventurous spirit of the people in this country. No wonder the population has not increased much. In the video, the Abomination can be seen wreaking havoc, and Jerry can be seen to attract the attention of the Abomination so that the crowd has time to escape, and then join hands with the Green Titan to defeat the Abomination. After this incident, it is estimated that the name of Wizard will become famous not only in Queens, but also throughout New York, and even the entire country. Aisha, you are watching TV here, I will go to the house to get something, and I will be back in a while. Seeing the reminder that the cooldown was over on the property panel, Jerry's eyes lit up, he greeted Aisha and returned to his room. Given the lessons learned last time, he can't make the same mistake again. If something is brought out of the small world and seen by Aisha, the explanation will not be clear. After entering the house and closing the door, Jerry reached under the bed and pulled out the guitar bag, took out the tranquilizer sniper rifle inside, and took out a glass bottle filled with powder from the drawer. Sitting on the bed, with a thought, he clicked the button to enter the small world. The world suddenly came to a standstill. Opening his eyes again, he had already appeared in the room of requirement in Hogwarts. Let's put this narcotic sniper rifle here for now. Jerry remembered that according to the Ministry of Magic regulations, wizards are not allowed to use Muggle items, and the Ministry of Magic seems to have set up a special department for this. It's called the Misuse of Muggle Artifacts Office, and the director of that office is Ron's dad. And now the item in his hand is not only a Muggle item, but also a very dangerous gun item among Muggle items. Once discovered, even if he is a good student with good character and academics, he will be punished severely. Therefore, he decided to hide the narcotic sniper rifle in the room of requirement, a special place for hiding things, and come to get it when he needs it. Placing it behind the wizard bust beneath Ravenclaw's diadem, Jerry quietly left the room of requirement with the wand and the glass bottle containing the powder. End of this chapter. Chapter 66 The Weasley Twins. This room of requirement is really amazing. After closing the door of the room of requirement, Jerry couldn't help letting out a heartfelt exclamation as he watched the smooth iron door disappear and the white walls return to their original state. He felt that the room of requirement felt like a magic house that had been cast with super transforming spells, legilimency spells, and traceless stretching spells. It can read the thoughts of the entrant, and then conjure various needed items according to the requirements, and can also extend various rooms. Maybe it was secretly made by one of the 4 great wizards who founded the school. However, it doesn't matter who created the room of requirement. What is important is that now that he owns the room of requirement, he will have a place to study and practice black magic in the future. After studying magic for so long, Jerry has already understood that it is not so easy to become a powerful wizard. Even if he has the cheating method of refreshing the mind, he still needs to work hard to achieve something. Of course, if he just wanted to study for 7 years and graduate with honors like ordinary little wizards, it must be a very simple matter. But in that case, his strength is about the same as some aurors in the Ministry of Magic. This is definitely not what he wants. What he wanted was to have at least as much strength as Lao Deng and Lao Fu before graduating from the 7th grade. He wants to equalize the peak strength of 2 magical wizards who have never seen each other in 1,000 years. How can it be done without a little hard work? It's past 12 midnight now. There was no sound in the entire Hogwarts castle. Even the wizard teaching the troll to dance and the trolls chasing the wizard's hammer on the giant carpet opposite the white wall were lying in the grass and sleeping. Caught. Not everyone is asleep, though, like a certain pair of restless Gryffindor twins. Good evening. Good evening. As soon as he reached the stairs on the 8th floor, Jerry bumped into the Weasley brothers who came out of the Gryffindor public restroom in an embarrassing manner. According to Hogwarts school rules, after the curfew, little wizards are not allowed to leave the dormitory for night tours in the castle. If they are caught, not only will they be deducted points, but they will also be locked up. But now Jerry, a freshman in Slytherin, and Weasley, 2 Gryffindor seniors, bumped into each other on the 8th floor stairs after midnight. Didn't you just say that there is no one on the 8th floor? Big brother Fred asked George in a low voice. George shrugged helplessly. Just now, the Marauders map shows that Mrs. Norris is on the 6th floor, and Filch is on the 2nd floor, but there is no new Slytherin. What they didn't know was that Jerry was still in the room of requirement just now, and the Marauders map couldn't show the people in the room of requirement, so George didn't see Jerry on the Marauders map just now. You two can't sleep and want to go downstairs. Jerry thought for a while. Since everyone violated the school rules, there is actually no big problem. Ah, that's right, you're the Slytherin freshman Jerry, aren't you? Fred obviously thought of something with Jerry, and his expression immediately relaxed. Same as the two, I can't sleep and come out for a walk, but now I'm going back. Jerry replied with a smile. For Jerry, a first-year Slater freshman, Fred and George also learned something from his younger brother Ron, so seeing Jerry's good attitude, they didn't show their dislike for Slytherin. Then let's go together. It is good. So, after a brief exchange, Jerry and the 2 brothers walked down the magic stairs. Meow woo. Just when the 3 of them went down to the 7th floor, a familiar cat shadow blocked their way. It was when the 3 of them were talking just now that Mrs. Norris, who had already patrolled the 6th floor, came to the 7th floor. Okay, it's you again, and there are 2 more accomplices. I just ate 2 fish, and I'm already full. I won't be bribed by you again. I'll report to the master and arrest you all. Mrs. Norris glanced at Jerry, and immediately turned around to find Filch on the 2nd floor. No, it's going to find Filch, retreat quickly. The Weasley brothers obviously had a lot of experience, so they had to retreat to the Gryffindor common room immediately, and find other opportunities to come out. Don't worry, I have a solution. Brother Weasley can retreat to the Gryffindor common room, but he, a Slytherin, can't follow him to the Gryffindor common room. Fortunately, he was also prepared for this, and took out the glass bottle that he had prepared in advance without any panic, then grabbed a handful of green powder from it, and sprinkled it on Mrs. Norris. Mrs. Norris, who was about to step away, seemed to smell something, her body froze suddenly, then she turned around and rushed towards the green powder that fell on the ground behind her, and began to quickly lick it. What is this? Meow. I feel so high. Immediately afterwards, Freddie and George were stunned to see another side of Mrs. Norris that had never been shown to them. After licking the green powder, Mrs. Norris first began to shake her head, as if she was dancing disco after drinking too much, and then she kept rolling on the ground, her expression gradually collapsed. In the end, like a cigarette afterward, he lay on the ground feeling powerless, and his eyes gradually became hollow. What did you feed it? It will be fine. If something happens to Mrs. Norris, Filch will kill us. Fred and George looked at Mrs. Norris, as if they had discovered a new world, and looked curiously and nervously at the glass bottle in Jerry's hand. A kind of herbal powder that cats especially like. It is not harmful to the body. Well, it may take a while to enjoy it before returning to normal. Let's go. Jerry didn't elaborate, but raised his foot and stepped past Mrs. Norris, and walked straight downstairs. The green powder in his bottle can also be said to be a kind of herb, but it is not a rare herb in the wizarding world, but a very common catnip for cat owners in the Muggle world. It was specially prepared by him for Mrs. Norris. In the future, he will often swim to the room of requirement to practice magic at night, and in his Superman mode, he doesn't need to pay attention to people like Filch who are squibs. Because of his footsteps, Jerry can hear clearly no matter how far away he is. But unlike Loyal Lizzie, as a cat, its feet are born with cat mitts that can eliminate noise, and it walks silently. Even if his 5 senses are keen, he may not be able to detect it in advance. Therefore, in order to deal with Mrs. Norris, he spared time in the main world and went to the pet store to buy a can of catnip powder. Unexpectedly, this came in handy as soon as I came back. End of this chapter. Chapter 67. Jerry's noble temperament will stop here. Filch is patrolling the 2nd floor. Be careful when you go back. After the contact just now, the Weasley brothers feel that Jerry is indeed similar to what his younger brother Ron said, a different Slytherin. And the key opponent seems to have a talent for tricks, and they have a kindred spirit with them, so when we parted ways on the 4th floor, I kindly reminded Jerry. Thank you, I'll keep an eye out. Jerry glanced at the location on the 4th floor, then nodded, and continued to walk downstairs. It's only been 10 days since the start of school, and the Weasley brothers couldn't help being curious. Are they going to visit the restricted area on the 4th floor? Also, at the school opening feast, Dumbledore personally declared the 4th floor as a restricted area, and any little wizard who went there would be courting death, so how could the Weasley brothers, these 2 daring fellows, hold back their curiosity and not sneak a peek? I didn't go there immediately on the night of the school opening banquet, which is considered very good. However, I don't know if these 2 can successfully walk in front of the 3-headed dog like the 3 of Harry. Guess, it shouldn't be that smooth, maybe they might not even be able to get in the first door. Jerry is not interested in the 4th floor adventure of the Weasley brothers. Because of course he knew about the secrets on the 4th floor, but the things inside were not something he could plan with his little magical ability now. It's better to be honest and pragmatic about your own magic theory, and find a way to learn more useful spells. Turning on the Superman mode, flexibly avoiding Filch who was patrolling on the 2nd floor, Jerry came to the entrance of the Slytherin dungeon. Noble. Saying the command, he stepped into the Slytherin common room, which had been out for a month. September 11th, Sunday, morning, in the Great Hall on the 1st floor of Hogwarts. Jerry sat on the long table in Slytherin, eating pumpkin porridge gracefully with a spoon, while concentrating on reading strange magic puzzles and their solutions that he had borrowed from the library before. Most of the other little Slytherin wizards were excited about the broomstick lesson that was coming up in the afternoon. The most conspicuous one was little Malfoy. At this time, he was proudly telling all kinds of stories that happened when he was riding a broomstick before entering school. For example, one extremely narrow escape from a Muggle helicopter. Anyway, they were just bragging words, and the other little wizards were also not to be outdone, telling how amazing their broomstick riding skills were. Daphne, you're peeking at Jerry again. Pansy, with short hair, glanced slyly at the other side of the long table. Jerry, who was concentrating on reading, bumped into Daphne next to him. Daphne blushed slightly and said, "What is peeking? I'm looking at it openly." Pansy laughed softly when he heard this. There are only 4 girls in Slater's freshmen, and of course they are assigned to a dormitory, so the relationship is still very good. However, I heard from Della that Jerry seems to have a good relationship with the freshman from Gryffindor, and he's also a traitor. After Pansy smiled, a hesitant look appeared on his face again. But Daphne immediately responded angrily, "Dellacona is jealous of Jerry's excellence. Jerry is not a traitor. You don't understand Jerry's ambitions at all. He doesn't need to fight against those people in Gryffindor, because he has never put Gryffindor people in his eyes. He is the best. Actually, I don't think he is a traitor. At least he has earned a lot of credits for Slytherin. Now Slytherin's credits are the first among the 4 colleges." Pansy nodded approvingly. She and Delacoe have known each other since they were young, and they know that Delacoe is relatively competitive. It may be that Jerry's performance has completely overwhelmed him during the beginning of school, so he said that. However, she didn't fully believe what Daphne said. It's only been 11 days since school started, and it will take time to test whether Jerry is as good as Daphne said. The little wizards of Slytherin are proud, and only those who are far superior to them can lead them. However, in the broomstick class in the afternoon, your Jerry probably won't stand out anymore. At this moment, Pansy suddenly thought of something, and raised an eyebrow at Daphne with a smile. During this period of time, Pansy already knew that Jerry was not a child of a famous wizard family at all, but came from a Muggle orphanage, but the parents may be wizards, or one of them may be a wizard. This also means that Jerry had never touched a broomstick before. As for the children of the wizard family, which ones have not been exposed to flying broomsticks since childhood, they should not be too familiar with them. Although Del Lake's experience is mostly bragging, his broomstick riding skills are definitely not bad. In the broomstick class, it is probably difficult for Jerry to have any outstanding performance. And she also heard from Delacoe that she should have a good laugh at Jerry and the famous Harry Potter in the broomstick class. Hearing Pansy's words, Daphne frowned slightly, but quickly said firmly, "Even if it is the first contact, I believe that Jerry is the best, he must be the best, no one can be better than him." "Okay." Pansy shrugged speechlessly. But then she took another look at Jerry and laughed. "He really does look like a real Slytherin, it's hard to imagine he was born in a Muggle orphanage, maybe his parents were famous wizards. That's why he flowed the noble blood in their bodies to have such a noble temperament." If Jerry knew what Pansy was thinking at this time, he would definitely laugh. Ghost's noble temperament, he just doesn't like to drink pumpkin porridge, so he digs it slowly with a spoon and eats it. If it was a bowl of salty tofu now, he would have finished it in a hurry. At this moment, a large group of owl postmen swarmed along the windows of the auditorium, throwing envelopes and packages in front of the little wizards. It's time for the owl delivery every morning. Here, little Malfoy received the new magic candy from his mother, and immediately proudly showed it off to the gluttonous Goyle and Crab. Pansy looked at the little Malfoy who was showing off with candy everywhere, and then glanced at Jerry who was sitting there elegantly drinking pumpkin porridge and concentrating on reading, and shook his head helplessly. "Della, compared to that Jerry, you really have no advantage except for your background. Oh, and maybe you have a broomstick. Girls always mature earlier than boys." In Pansy's view, Delacoe showing off with candy is a bit too childish. Even if he does well in broomstick class, it will be difficult to shake Jerry's current position in the hearts of all first-year Slytherins. "But I still think Gore is the most handsome one." On the other side, the strong Millicent suddenly interjected. Pansy and Daphne rolled their eyes at the same time as they looked at the glib-mouthed Goyle. End of this chapter. Chapter 68 The Broomstick Class Accident. My memory ball. "Malfoy, do you want to fight?" A yelling sound pulled Jerry out of the ocean of magical knowledge. He turned his head and looked towards the place where the commotion took place. It turned out that when Malfoy passed by the Gryffindor long table, he snatched the memory ball that Neville's grandma had sent to Neville, and Harry and Ron were helping Neville. However, due to the timely arrival of Professor McGonagall, the conflict ended before it reached a climax. After closing the book and checking the time, Jerry got up and walked towards the Slytherin dormitory. There was Transfiguration class in the morning, and he hadn't picked up the textbook yet. Some people think that since Jerry has already memorized all the contents of the Transfiguration textbook and used all the spells in it, is there any point in attending the class? Jerry will tell you, of course it makes sense. It's like you have memorized the entire math book, and then you can use the formulas in it through self-study, but it is a truth that you still need to go to math class to listen to the teacher's explanation. Moreover, in terms of the complexity of magic, it is not much worse than mathematics. Under the teacher's explanation, many small details that were ignored during self-study will be discovered at this time, and many knowledge, experience, and small skills that are not mentioned in these books will also be popularized by the teacher in class. Therefore, Jerry still attaches great importance to class, and he will listen to almost every class very carefully. Because only in this way can his magic foundation be solid enough. A tall building rises from the ground, and every brick and tile is the foundation. If you want to become a top-level wizard like Dumbledore, if you don't lay a solid enough foundation, it is definitely impossible to become a magician. Self-study, attending classes, and communicating with classmates are all indispensable bricks and tiles for building tall buildings. 3:30 in the afternoon, the sun is shining and the breeze is gentle, which is a very suitable day for riding a broomstick. Jerry and a group of little Slytherin wizards came to the big lawn at the gate of the castle together, and there, 20 broomsticks had already been placed in advance. It's just that the 20 broomsticks looked a bit worn out, and even some branches were stuck out in all directions, which seemed to be worse than his sweeping 3-star broomstick. After a while, Jerry saw Hermione, Harry, and other Gryffindor wizards coming from the castle, followed by their broomstick teacher Miss Hooch. Miss Hooch looked to be in her early 30s, with short grey hair and sharp yellow eagle-like eyes. Jerry felt that there might be some eagle-like magical animal blood flowing in her body. Okay, what are you all waiting for? Everyone stand next to a broomstick. Quick, quick, hurry up. As soon as Miss Hooch arrived, she immediately urged the little wizards to stand beside the 2 rows of broomsticks. Gryffindor had 11 and Slytherin had 9, so Hermione was temporarily placed next to Jerry. Hold your hands tightly, move your body forward, don't keep looking down, look forward, don't be nervous, don't be nervous, I'm not nervous, I'm not nervous, I'm nervous, I'm nervous. Jerry looked at Hermione next to him, and kept chanting the flying skills recorded in the amazing Quidditch in a low voice, while his tense body trembled slightly, and he couldn't help but want to laugh. However, he still comforted in a low voice with a slow tone, Hermione, it's okay, it's just a broom, let's not fly so high for a while, take your time. But I've never ridden a broomstick before. Hearing the comfort from her best friend, Hermione stopped talking, but there was still a worried look on her face. Jerry nonchalantly said without batting an eye, it's okay, I haven't ridden it before, it's the first time, just ride it a few more times in the future. At this time, Ms. Hooch also came among the young wizards and began to explain the magic spells and some usage skills of controlling the broomstick. After the theory is finished, the next step is practice. Stretch out your right hand, put it on top of the broomstick, and say the spell. At Mrs. Hooch's command, all held out their right hands and read in unison, 2 puffs. As the spell took effect, everyone's broomsticks also started to move. Some flew directly into the hands, such as Jerry, Malfoy, and Harry, etc., some just rolled on the ground, such as Hermione, Dean, Parvati, and some remained motionless on the ground, such as Neville and Seamus. Hermione, your mind must be firm and strong, and you must convey to it an emotion that if you don't get up, if you don't obey, I'll chop you up and use it as firewood. Seeing that Hermione didn't let the broomstick get up several times in a row, Jerry's eyes were red with anxiety, and he quickly taught her his unique skills. Jerry is very experienced in flying broomsticks, after all, he has been flying on it for a month. And he was the same as Hermione at the beginning, and later through the refreshing function, he was keenly aware of the shortcut to mastering the broomstick. That is the transmission of emotions. The broomstick is also bullying and fearful. The more nervous and timid you are, the more disobedient it will be. The more determined and tough you are, the more it will be persuaded. Sure enough, with the help of Jerry's tricks, Hermione quickly mastered the method and let the broomstick fly into her hand successfully. On the other side, Daphne, who had already picked up the broomstick, saw Jerry carefully teaching Hermione skills, and suddenly thought she made a mistake. She shouldn't have picked up the broomstick so quickly just now. Half an hour later, under Mrs. Hooch's careful guidance, the last Neville also managed to pick up the broomstick. Okay, as soon as I whistle, you kick your legs off the ground and kick hard. Mrs. Hooch came to the front of the crowd with a whistle. Hold the broom steady, go up a few feet, then lean forward slightly and drop straight back to the ground. Listen to my whistle, 3, 2. However, before Mrs. Hooch could blow the whistle, Neville, who was too nervous, kicked his feet hard and shot straight up like a rocket. In the blink of an eye, Neville's flying height exceeded the few feet that Miss Hooch had just mentioned, and reached a height of more than 10 feet, and even 20 or 30 feet later, that is, a height of more than 10 meters. Then, his face turned pale, his hands softened, and he yelled, slipped off the broom, and quickly smashed to the ground under the force of gravity. Due to the suddenness of the incident, even Mrs. Hooch did not react. However, just as everyone was exclaiming, a figure swiped from the ground soaring into the sky, like a sharp arrow, rushing towards the place where Neville fell. It turned out that not everyone didn't react, at least Jerry, who had expected it for a long time, responded in time. End of this chapter. Chapter 69, Amazing Skills. In other words, this wizard's body, strength, speed, and other aspects are not much stronger than normal people, but his vitality is definitely tenacious. Jerry was riding on a broomstick, and seeing Neville hitting the ground from a height of more than 10 meters, he couldn't help sighing. If he remembered correctly, after Neville hit the ground, he only suffered some minor injuries. Miss Hooch helped him to the school hospital for treatment, and he fully recovered in the evening. If it was a normal person, let alone a child, even a stronger adult, it would probably be enough for him to fall from a height of more than 10 meters. After fine-tuning the angle of the broomstick, Jerry swooped down and snatched up Neville's school uniform, which was falling. "Catch it!" Seeing this, the little wizards below let out a burst of exclamation. But at this time, Neville's weight and the strong falling gravity made Jerry, who was holding him, lose his balance all of a sudden, and was about to be taken and fell off the broomstick. Let Ms. Hooch and the little wizards below scream again. However, whoever Jerry is, he has encountered this kind of situation, and riding a broomstick before saved those who committed suicide by jumping off the building. As soon as he turned on the Superman mode, his body shook violently, and his feet hooked on the broomstick, immediately converting the force of his fall into a rushing force, pulling Neville on the broomstick to hit several big ones in a row. Turntable. After removing all the strength, he pulled Neville to sit on the broomstick again. "I said, Neville, you should lose weight." Jerry regained control of the broomstick, and while controlling the broomstick to adjust its direction and fly to the ground, he smiled at Neville who was being carried in his hand. At this time, Neville's face had lost all trace of fright, and he didn't answer Jerry's question, but cried out with a wow, with a lot of tears and snot in his nose. If Jerry hadn't saved him just now, he really thought he was going to die. Riding a broomstick and steadily placing Neville on the lawn, Jerry turned over and jumped off the broomstick, and the two of them were instantly surrounded by little wizards. Mrs. Hooch and the little wizards of Gryffindor were mostly concerned about comforting Neville, while the little wizards of Slytherin didn't care about Neville's life and death, but looked at Jerry with admiration. Although most of the little wizards in Slytherin have been exposed to flying broomsticks since they were young, the top pair is just flying in the yard, and the height is only about 3 or 4 meters. Things like the helicopter that almost hit the Muggles were just some self-proclaimed jokes. A little wizard who has not learned the disillusionment charm is not allowed to ride a broomstick in the Muggle world at all. The law of secrecy is no joke. Unless, like the Weasleys, they live in very remote places. Therefore, Jerry's thrilling broomstick rescue operation just now was too powerful in their eyes. This is not bragging, but a real live broadcast. Especially the movement of the big turntable of the broomstick just now is an unheard of technique, so cool. They even felt that, even in previous World Quidditch tournaments, they hadn't seen anyone able to perform such a difficult technique. Clamping a broomstick between 2 feet and twirling in the air while holding one in hand, is this really a movement that a human can do? Mr. Carman just relied on his superb broomstick skills to save Mr. Longbottom, who made a mistake very bravely. Very good, very good. I want to give Slytherin 10 points. Seeing that Neville was only a little overly frightened and had no physical damage, Mrs. Hooch heaved a long sigh of relief, then looked at Jerry and announced loudly. As a flight teacher, if Neville died because of this, she would definitely be responsible, and she would never forgive herself in her heart. So for Jerry's behavior of saving Neville, Ms. Hooch is also grateful from the bottom of her heart. The key point is that Jerry's skill in riding a broom just now also impresses her. It's the first time she rides a broom, and she has such a level. This potential is definitely a good player in the future Quidditch field. Awesome! Slater Linyi added 10 points all of a sudden, and all the little Slytherin wizards, including the little Malfoy, couldn't help applauding. If a person is as good as you will still try to compare with him, but if he is so good that you feel a little desperate, your thoughts may slowly change. At this moment, Jerry made little Malfoy feel this way. In terms of learning ability, Jerry is the best in all subjects, even his best potion class is inferior to Jerry. In terms of magical ability, Jerry has been able to release all the spells in the textbooks in the transformation and charms classes, but he, who has a solid foundation, can't master 1/3 of them. In terms of fighting, Jerry alone can beat him plus Gore and Crabbe, and they are completely defeated. Now even the only broomstick he thought he could beat Jerry had little hope of winning, especially since it was the first time the other party had come into contact with a broomstick today. How can this compare? He had always disliked Harry, and opposed Harry because Harry had a great reputation for defeating the Dark Lord, but he didn't feel that he was such a genius. He even felt that Harry was inferior to him in many aspects, especially potions class. The most important point is that as a wizard of a pure-blood family, he did not enter Slytherin, but went to Gryffindor. He would rather be friends with the traitors of Weasley than the noble him. Well, let me just say that Jerry is absolutely the best. At this moment, Daphne in Slytherin glanced at Pansy proudly. Pansy looked at Jerry, who was still smiling under the applause of the crowd, and couldn't help but nodded. I admit, he is indeed a bit different. The little Gryffindor wizard on the other side clapped his hands even though he was a little disappointed when he heard Slytherin add 10 points. Because Jerry's behavior just now really made them very admired, and the other party saved their little Gryffindor wizard regardless of their own danger, so why should they not applaud? Wizards of Gryffindor don't have the virtue of being narrow-minded. 10 minutes later, the class returned to normal again. Because of the experience just now, Neville temporarily sat on the side to rest, while the other young wizards rode broomsticks and began to try at a height of 2 or 3 meters under the guidance of Mrs. Hooch. Flight. At this height, there is a soft lawn below, even if you fall down, it won't be a big deal. But everyone performed well, except for a few wobbly ones, the others were quite stable. Slow down, don't rush, yes, just hold on to the direction. Jerry rode a broomstick next to Hermione, carefully guiding her to fly, while Malfoy on the other side froze with Harry, who had just touched a broomstick for the first time. The two competed back and forth there. Although it was the first time for Harry to meet him, he was very talented, and he did not lose to Malfoy in every aspect, which made Malfoy very upset. It's okay to lose to Jerry, but he is absolutely unconvinced if he loses to Harry. End of this chapter. Chapter 70 Snape's promise regarding the grievances between Malfoy and Harry. Jerry didn't interfere much. His goal is to concentrate on learning magic and strive to strengthen himself. Improving his status among the students is just to learn more magic more effectively. Instead of being a peacemaker, mediating the grievances and disputes between a few children, wouldn't that be a pain in the a? The flying lesson is over, and it's already 6 o'clock. Jerry came to the auditorium with the little wizards and enjoyed a sumptuous dinner that had already filled the tables. To be honest, the food at Hogwarts is pretty good overall. Although it is not as extravagant as the opening banquet, there are not a few meat dishes in every meal, and beef, mutton, and the like are almost available in every meal. After dinner, Jerry is preparing to go back to the dormitory to take a nap to recover from the overdrawn spirit of today's use of refreshing. Professor Snape, who was dressed in black wizard robes and had no expression on his face, suddenly blocked his way. "Come with me." After leaving only a few words, Professor Snape turned and walked towards his office. Although Jerry was confused, he followed up honestly. The head of Slytherin's office is also on the basement level, on the same floor as the potions classroom and the Slytherin common room. The layout of the office was in line with Snape's personal image. Except for a desk, the entire office is filled with all kinds of animal and plant specimens and precious potion refining materials. At first glance, I thought it was in the material storage room for refining potions. But it also showed that Snape was really rich. It is estimated that most of these precious potion materials belong to him personally. "Ms. Hooch told me about your performance in class just now. I heard that you dived from a height of more than 20 feet and caught that idiot from the Longbottom family in one go." Snape sat behind his desk, looking at Jerry sharply. "Yes, I didn't think of it myself." When Jerry heard that it was about the broomstick class, he breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that Snape hated Gryffindor on the surface, but in fact, he still loved every little wizard in the school, and would not trouble him because he saved a Gryffindor wizard. Plus he earned 10 points for the Slytherins for it. "You are riding a broom for the first time?" Snape continued asking. Jerry nodded cheekily. "Very well, Ms. Hooch told me that you are absolutely the most suitable Seeker student she has ever met, so I want you to join Slytherin's Quidditch team directly as Seeker." Snape didn't beat around the bush, but ordered directly. "It seems that this grade cannot join Quidditch." Jerry hesitated. He doesn't really want to join Quidditch, because he thinks that if he has that time, he might as well spend it on studying magic to improve his strength. No matter how good Quidditch is, it's just an entertainment activity. Just like basketball, football, and badminton, no matter how good you practice, when it comes to fighting, you still can't beat others who practice Sanda. And he didn't remember Voldemort ever being a Quidditch player. "You don't have to worry about that, I'll tell Dumbledore." Snape waved his hand. "I heard that our Slytherin team seems to have been overwhelming the Gryffindor team all the time. It is already so good, there is no need for me to add another freshman. And I want to spend more time learning magic." Jerry expressed his thoughts a little bit. Snape nodded. He appreciated Jerry's studious spirit, but he didn't give up his previous plan. "I have never paid attention to the Gryffindor team, and they have never won in the past few years of confrontation, but this does not mean that we Slytherin can win the first place every year. Last year, Hufflepuff was first, Slytherin was second, Gryffindor was third, and La Wen Kilo was fourth. I don't just want a win over Gryffindor, but Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff, so you're the new seeker. It turned out that although Slytherin has been suppressing Gryffindor in the past few years, it does not win the Quidditch Cup every time. Hufflepuff's team is also very good, especially their seeker Cedric Diggory. Seeing that Jerry was still hesitating, Snape continued to add, Nimbus 2000, as long as you are willing to serve as Slytherin's seeker, I will give you the latest Nimbus 2000. Make a deal. The Nimbus 2000 is the latest broomstick, its fastest speed is at least twice that of sweeping Samsung, and its steering, braking, and other aspects are far superior to sweeping Samsung. Jerry knew very well that a broomstick with better performance might give him a little more chance of surviving in a dangerous battle like last time, since he hadn't learned apparition yet. So when Snape said that he would give away a Nimbus 2000 for free, he decisively agreed. Snape. As expected, he is indeed an excellent Slytherin. Once he heard that it would be beneficial, he agreed quickly enough. Follow me. Seeing that Jerry had agreed, Snape got up and led him to the Slytherin team captain Marcus Flint. Marcus Flint looks very strong. It is said that he may have the blood of a troll in his body. He is a 5th grade student and has just become the captain of the Slytherin team this year. He frowned when he heard that Snape was going to make Jerry, a freshman, the most important seeker. Dean, if he's the seeker, what about Terrence Higgs? Terrence Higgs was the former seeker for the Slytherin team. You guys lost to Hufflepuff last year, it shows he's not a good seeker, let him be a backup. Snape squinted his head and gave Marcus a bad look. Marcus's heart trembled suddenly, knowing that his question just now had made the dean a little unhappy, so he quickly replied, Okay, then wait until Saturday, let Jerry come to the Quidditch training ground, and I will teach him some Quidditch rules. Snape nodded in satisfaction upon hearing this, and led Jerry back to the office. In fact, the reason why Snape believed in Jerry so much was not only because of Ms. Hooch's words, but also because he happened to see the scene where Jerry saved Neville. The Nimbus 2000 will be delivered in a few days, you can go back. After returning to the office, Snape let Jerry leave without saying anything. However, just as Jerry was about to leave the office, Snape's emotionless voice sounded behind him again, If you do well in Quidditch training, I will allow you to come here at night and ask me about magic. End of this chapter. Chapter 71 Midnight Encounter. Jerry was still in a good mood when he left Snape's office. Originally, he tried to save Neville, just to earn a little red star, and Neville was already stupid enough to fall down like this. Unexpectedly, not only got a free Nimbus 2000, but also got Snape's promise that he could come to ask about magic at night time in the future. This is really going around and around, and it's back to the original plan. Originally, he wanted to join Gryffindor, not because Professor McGonagall could give him a Nimbus 2000, and by the way, he could have a relationship with Professor McGonagall for a small talk. Now, although I joined Slytherin by accident, I can also get the Nimbus 2000 and enjoy the benefits of being a small cook. It seems that he really deserves some snacks for the next Quidditch game. However, you can't waste too much time on it, you have to think of a way to kill two birds with one stone. Back in the Slytherin dormitory, before Jerry entered the door, he heard the triumphant laughter of the little Malfoy trio from inside. You can imagine, when the two idiots Potter and Weasley went to the prize showroom to fight us at night, and saw Filch there, what kind of wonderful expression would it be? Thinking about it, I'm special happy. I think that after the two of them are caught, even if they won't be expelled, they will definitely be locked up. No way, the people of Gryffindor have always been insane. I just said that, and they believed it. So, they are all idiots. When the three of them saw Jerry open the door and walk in, their laughter stopped abruptly, then they glanced at each other, left the dormitory very unnaturally, and went to the common room to continue the discussion. Seeing this, Jerry just shook his head and ignored them. Instead, he fell on the bed and began to catch up on his daily sleep. He didn't care about or prevent the three of them from trying to trick Harry and Ron, because it was completely unnecessary. Harry had Dumbledore as his backing, and no matter who it was impossible to kick him out of school. In the eyes of the little wizard, violating the school rules may be something very terrifying and extraordinary, but in the eyes of the professors, it is actually nothing at all. No professor would expel little wizards for violating the curfew at night. If so, the Weasley brothers would have been expelled dozens of times. Every year, at least half of Gryffindor's students will be expelled before graduation, because they like to come out for adventure at night. Even Hufflepuff, who seems to be the most disciplined, we'll sneak out of the dormitory at night and go to the kitchen to get something to eat. At midnight, Jerry slowly opened his eyes. At this time, Malfoy and the others had already fallen asleep. Jerry got up quietly, picked up his wand and a can of catnip, and left the dormitory secretly. From now on, every night after 12 o'clock, he would go to the House of Everything to practice magic in order to improve his proficiency in magic. Anyway, in the main world, he is also earning a little red star outside during this period of time, and he is used to it. Turning on the Superman mode, improving the 5 senses to prevent being discovered by Filch on patrol, Jerry walked along the magic stairs to the room of requirement on the 8th floor. What? Jerry had just reached the 4th floor when 4 terrified screams suddenly came from the end of the corridor on the 4th floor. Immediately afterwards, he saw Harry, Hermione, Ron, and Neville running out of the room at the end of the 4th floor with fear on their faces. What's the situation? Jerry immediately put a question mark on his head. He remembered that in the movie, it wasn't that Audio-Technica was accidentally transferred to the 4th floor when walking the magic stairs during the day, and then entered it by mistake, and found Lu Wei, the 3-headed dog, why it became after midnight now. And there was an extra Neville. Oh, yes, this is the world of novels. He suddenly remembered that this is the world of a novel, and some details might be different, so he was relieved. But then he sighed again, because since the 4 of Harry broke into the restricted area on the 4th floor at this time, it meant that Dumbledore was probably hiding nearby with the disillusionment charm. This also meant that today he could not go to the room of requirement to practice magic. What's wrong with you guys? Jerry took the initiative to stop Harry and the 4 of them asked. Jerry, there is a scary 3-headed monster in the forbidden area on the 4th floor, let's run. The 4 of Hermione and Harry saw Jerry appearing, panting for breath while explaining in a panic. Calm down, the 3-headed monster you mentioned didn't catch up. Jerry pointed to the corridor behind the 4 of them. The 4 looked back, and sure enough, the corridor on the 4th floor was empty, and the 3 vicious dogs were chained and did not run out chasing them. What the hell is going on? What kind of 3-headed monster? Jerry feigned confusion. So the 4 told Jerry that they were chased by Filch into the restricted area on the 4th floor and found a huge 3-headed vicious dog and a trapdoor inside. By the way, Jerry, why are you here? After finishing speaking, Hermione suddenly thought of something, and looked at Jerry in surprise. Jerry coughed dryly, and then started to fool around. That's right, I heard that you are going to have a magic duel with Decora at midnight, but at 12 o'clock, I don't think the 3 of them have any idea of getting up to duel with you. That's why I came here specially to inform you to go back to the dormitory as soon as possible so that Mr. Filch won't catch you. Look, I told Malfoy they lied to you, and you had to listen. Gryffindor almost got points deducted for your recklessness, and I almost got fired for you. Hermione yelled at Harry and Ron angrily. But Harry and Ron looked at each other. They didn't force Hermione out then, it's their fault now. Still, they thanked Jerry. Because Jerry actually risked being fired, it was really interesting to take the risk of notifying them to evacuate so late. Sure enough, although Jerry is a Slytherin, he is a trustworthy Slytherin. Okay, you guys go back quickly, I'm going back too, or Mr. Filch will come on patrol later, and it will be troublesome. Jerry looked around, his keen 5 senses made him faintly aware that a certain line of sight fell on him from mid-air, so he quickly opened his mouth to remind him. The 4 of Hermione and Harry also thought it made sense, greeted Jerry and ran along the stairs towards the Gryffindor common room on the 8th floor. Seeing this, Jerry didn't stay long, turned around and returned to the Slytherin dormitory. Although he didn't go to the room of response today, he also knew that Dumbledore had really been monitoring Harry's every move. Be careful when you're with Harry in the future. End of this chapter. Chapter 72 Golden Snitch, bring it to you. On Saturday morning, the auditorium on the 1st floor. Hermione, go to the library first after you finish eating, don't wait for me, I have something to do, I'll be there in about half an hour. After breakfast, Jerry explained to Hermione in advance as he passed by the Gryffindor table. Last Saturday he made an appointment with Hermione to go to the library to read books this morning, but because of an accident on Thursday, he had to go to the Quidditch stadium this morning to solve the problem of participating in Quidditch training in the future. However, if the plan goes well, he shouldn't need to waste too long there. The Quidditch pitch of Hogwarts is located between the castle and the Forbidden Forest. The area is as large as several football fields, and the auditorium on all sides is enough for thousands of people to sit and watch without being crowded. There are 3 gold poles at each end of the field, with rings on top, each of them is more than 10 meters high. Today, the Slytherin team specially applied for the Quidditch venue, so now only the wizards of the Slytherin team are conducting daily training on the venue. The tall and burly Captain Marcus, along with the other 2 Slater wizards, was conducting passing training. The ball in their hands was about 30 centimeters in diameter and bright red in color. From time to time they also throw the ball at the goalkeeper standing in the ring. On the other side, 2 Slater wizards were riding broomsticks, holding short clubs in their hands, and they were constantly hitting 2 black iron balls that were constantly attacking them. The black iron balls were a circle smaller than the red balls just now. There is also a wizard Slater below who did not participate in the training. He is sitting in the stands, and his expression does not seem to be very good. Okay, let's pause for a while and gather at my place. At this time, the Captain Marcus, who was passing the ball, also saw Jerry, and quickly waved his hand and shouted to the players. After a while, Marcus introduced to his 6 team members, "This freshman, Jerry Kamen, is also our new seeker. Welcome." However, after Marcus's voice fell, none of the other 6 team members raised their hands to applaud, but all of them looked disdainful. It seemed to them a joke that a first-year freshman, who had never played a broomstick before, was the most important chaser on their team. Even if it was their terrifying headmaster Snape's decision, it didn't make them feel confident. "It depends on you, if you want to replace me as the seeker. I think the dean is confused." At this time, the Slytherin wizard who was sitting in the stands sullenly said to Jerry with a mocking face. "I also think the dean is a bit too much this time. Although Senior Terence is not the top seeker, he has also earned a lot of honor for us Slytherin. We can't let this first-year newborn egg to replace him." Another wizard Slater interjected. "And Senior Terence will be graduating next year, and this year will be his last Quidditch competition. Ha, you are standing and talking without pain in your back. I also know that this matter is very inappropriate, but if you have the ability, go and talk to the dean in person. See if the dean will send your souls to hell with black magic." Marcus rolled his eyes secretly when he heard the complaints from his teammates. Don't look at other people who are tall and burly and look very cruel, but they are still very cowardly in the face of Snape. It wasn't really that he was afraid that Snape would use black magic to punish him. In fact, this had never happened before. Snape would never use black magic to punish students, it was just his psychology. Just like when you were 11 or 12 years old, you met a teacher who made you feel very scary. Even if you grow up in the future, when you think about this teacher, you will still have some psychological shadows. Snape was like this, with a gloomy face all day long, exuding a dark and terrifying aura everywhere, and the potions class was even more severe, and he never showed mercy when he scolded the little wizard. For every first-year freshman, it is a nightmare. So even though these little wizards were grown up in the 6th or 7th grade, when they faced Snape, they still trembled a little. This is a problem left over from history. Okay, since this is the dean's decision, it cannot be changed. The most important thing for us now is to spare more time for training. Before the first Quidditch game next month, we must train Jerry to become a slightly more qualified seeker. Marcus knew that it was useless to complain now, and only by training more could he win in future competitions. "I'm sorry, Senior Marcus, I'm usually busy, so I may not be able to participate in your training." As Marcus tried to reassure the team, Jerry smiled and raised his hand. "What did you say?" The tall and burly Marcus stood in front of Jerry aggressively, his face full of anger. "Good guy, I just said that I need to step up training, but you don't have time to train, you are a newbie and don't know anything, how can you have confidence?" "I said, I'm usually busy, and I may not have time to come and train with you." Jerry smiled and repeated it again. Immediately afterwards, he ushered in the 7 original Slytherin team members, who condemned him violently. Stop, seniors, listen to my explanation." Jerry slid backwards, avoiding the spittle of the 7 seniors, and then said slowly, "Do you see if this works? I know the rules of the Quidditch game very well, and the task of the seeker is to throw everything away and catch the snitch. Now, I'll make you a bet, if I can catch the snitch 3 times in a row in 5 minutes, then I can skip training. If it doesn't work, I'll make it clear to Dean Snape myself and quit the team." Hearing Jerry's words, the 7 Slytherin members, including Marcus, were all stunned. Catch the snitch 3 times in a row within 5 minutes, aren't you kidding? Even the best seeker in the international Quidditch game, he couldn't catch the snitch in the first 5 minutes. Unless one day is very lucky, there is only a little possibility. How about it, bet or not? Jerry smiled again. 7 people replied at the same time, bet. From their point of view, it might be that Jerry knew that he couldn't be a seeker, so he found a reason and quit. 5 minutes later, Jerry held up his training broomstick and gestured to Marcus in the middle of the Quidditch field for an oak sign. Marcus opened the box, took out the training snitch, and let go. The golden snitch the size of a walnut immediately opened a pair of small silver wings, and then quickly fled across the entire Quidditch pitch. And Jerry also kicked his feet, turned on the boosting brain function, and rushed towards the golden snitch. Bring it to you. After a few sharp turns, Jerry in Superman mode grabbed the golden snitch. End of this chapter. Chapter 73 Rolling level 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Marcus looked at the pocket watch in his hand and couldn't help rubbing his eyes. Impossible. The other 6 Slater team members exclaimed at the same time when they heard the time reported by Marcus. Catching the golden snitch in 3 minutes and 40 seconds is simply a joke. Even if it is not an official match, this data can definitely break the record. Luck, definitely luck. Seeing Jerry returning with the snitch, the 7 comforted themselves at the same time. It is impossible for a person who has just been exposed to flying broomsticks for a few days to catch the golden snitch in 3 minutes and 40 seconds with real skills. So, only luck can explain what just happened. Taking the snitch from Jerry with a smile, Marcus took a deep breath and threw the snitch into the air again. This time, the Slytherin team members were no longer as undisciplined as before, but all fixed their eyes on Jerry. They want to prevent Jerry from using magic to cheat when hunting the golden snitch. However, in their eyes, Jerry kicked his feet, accelerated on his broomstick, and just made a few turns in the air, and soon found the snitch. Immediately afterwards, the golden snitch, known for its speed and agility, was caught by Jerry's hand, which was as fast as lightning. 3 minutes and 5 seconds. Marcus reported Jerry's time again, 35 seconds faster than the first time. This time, all the team members fell silent. If the first time is luck, then if you catch it the second time, the element of luck is already very low. And they also observed carefully just now, Jerry is definitely very proficient in operating the broomstick, and those few tactical flips and accelerations are beyond the reach of ordinary wizards. The most important thing is the subsequent catch of the snitch, which was fast, accurate, and ruthless, without the slightest sloppiness. I'm not as good as him. Terence, the seeker who had been with the Slytherin team for 4 years, couldn't help letting out a long sigh when he saw Jerry returning with the snitch. After receiving the snitch handed over by Jerry, Marcus threw it out for the 3rd time with some numbness. 2 minutes and 45 seconds. The time has been shortened again, and it has been indented to 3 minutes, which is really terrible. Is this really something humans can do? Looking at the smiling Jerry, as if he didn't know what he was doing, how shocking Jerry was, the hearts of all the Slytherin players were mixed at this moment. On the one hand, they're delighted that they're about to have a super powerful seeker. On the other hand, compared to Jerry, a first-year freshman who has just learned about flying broomsticks, they feel that they have been practicing for nothing all these years, which is a bit of a blow to the proud Slytherin. How about it, seniors, I will win this bet. Jerry looked at the 7 Slytherin players who were all in a dazed state, and reminded him softly. Marcus, who was the first to react, looked at Jerry with bright eyes. You won, you don't need to participate in all the Quidditch training in the future, as long as you appear in the game. As the new captain of the Slytherin team this year, Marcus can already imagine that with such an excellent seeker like Jerry, he will be able to lead Slytherin 100% to win Quidditch in the 3 years before his graduation. Odd cup of honor. So, it's just a requirement that you don't want to train, of course it can be met. However, I also have a condition, I hope you can promise me. You say? Jerry raised an eyebrow. Marcus said excitedly, don't tell other people that you became our new seeker, and don't tell others what happened to you here today. I want to give the other 3 houses a big surprise in this year's Quidditch competition. Jerry thought for a moment and nodded. Okay, no problem. Now that he was good enough in Slater, and Snape had promised to give him a break, talking about joining the Slytherin team was just icing on the cake. After leaving the Quidditch pitch, Jerry went straight to the library. During this period of time, he has learned a lot of magic knowledge by himself, and he has left a lot of doubts in his heart. Now he also wants to go to the library to search for information and communicate with classmate Hermione by the way. The so-called 1 person counts short, 2 counts long, not to mention that Hermione is still such an ordinary little magic genius. And not long after Jerry left the Quidditch pitch, Marcus also rushed to Dean Snape's office. He wanted to report Jerry's performance to Dean Snape in detail. "Look, Jerry, there's a new spell here, do you want to write it down?" In the library, Hermione pointed to a spell that she accidentally saw when she was flipping through the magic book. "Certainly." Jerry immediately took out his portable notebook, and recorded the content on the page that read "The Curse of Unleashing the Arrow." Although Hermione and Jerry both read books in the library, their reading directions are somewhat different. Hermione's reading mainly focused on the history and common sense of the wizarding world, as well as some messy and weird knowledge, and she didn't have a special purpose in learning about spells. Jerry's book reading focuses on some magic theories and spells with different functions. However, not all spells are recorded in spell books. There are many spells that are actually hidden in some biographical and historical books. For example, this relatively ancient arrow curse appeared in a book Hermione was reading about a certain record of Quidditch history. The arrow curse is actually a very common offensive spell in the Middle Ages, especially useful against Muggle armies. There is no need for a bow and arrow. With a wave of the wand, the arrow will be shot at the enemy with the wizard's thoughts, and its power is not inferior to that of ordinary strong bows. A powerful wizard can even do a terrifying scene with all arrows. However, due to the secrecy law and policies such as wizards not being able to attack Muggles, few people use this spell anymore. In case an arrow flies past and shoots the Muggle to death, it's not cost-effective to go to Azkaban. And it's not much use against wizards with this spell. After all, for a wizard, even if you shoot 10,000 arrows, I can easily solve it with the Iron Armor Curse or the Transfiguration Curse. It is not as effective as using the Body Binding Curse and Sleeping Curse. And unless an arrow hits the brain, the wizard can't be shot dead. The wizard is an existence that can recover with magic if it loses an arm or a leg. Therefore, later, the arrow-letting curse was only used by wizards to shoot into the sky when watching a Quidditch game to show their support for their favorite team. But later, it was banned because it accidentally shot through the nose of the referee. End of this chapter. Chapter 74 The long-planned attack October 31st, the day before Halloween. Early in the morning, Jerry saw Hagrid, who was like a little titan, and Flitwick, the charms professor, arranging the entire auditorium with magic. Hagrid put magic candles in the hollowed-out super big pumpkins one by one, and Professor Flitwick raised the jack-o'-lanterns one by one with a floating spell. Seeing those huge pumpkins floating above the auditorium, Jerry couldn't help but sigh that the gap between him and professor-level wizards is really more than a little bit. Professor Flitwick raises hundreds of super jack-o'-lanterns at once and can keep them floating in the air for days without issue. And he used the floating spell to hold a bus in place for only 2 seconds. However, compared to ordinary young wizards of the same grade who are still using the floating spell to float feathers, he is already very powerful. It may be that a lot of pumpkins were used to make jack-o'-lanterns today, so the breakfast is all pumpkin porridge, which he hates the most. If it weren't for the fact that many professors were having breakfast in the auditorium and could not use magic at will, Jerry really wanted to use the transfiguration technique to turn pumpkin porridge into tofu brains. Slater Linyi was in grade 1 and only had class in the morning today, so after getting some sleep in the afternoon, Jerry took a magic book borrowed from the library, and sat on the chair in the Slytherin common room to read it. Looking at it, it was around 6 o'clock in the evening. "Jerry, the dinner party is about to start, if you don't leave, you will be late." Daphne and Pansy passed by the common room. Seeing that the dinner was less than 10 minutes away, Jerry was still sitting in the common room and had no intention of leaving, so he immediately reminded them. Hearing this, Jerry raised his head and smiled gently. "It's okay, you go first, I don't like too noisy environment, wait until you finish the last 2 pages. Seeing this, Daphne and Pansy had no choice but to leave the common room first. 10 minutes later, he put down the magic book in his hand and looked at the time. The dinner party has almost started, everyone should be in the auditorium by now. Getting up and returning to the dormitory, Jerry took out the anesthesia sniper rifle he had retrieved from the room of requirement last night from the big box under the bed, wrapped it in a cloth, and quietly left the Slytherin dormitory. He turned on the Superman mode like a nimble elite agent, and quickly dived towards the stairway connecting the first floor and the basement. The basement of Hogwarts has a large area. In addition to the houseboat near the bottom of the Black Lake, the Slytherin dormitory, the potion classroom, the Slytherin headmaster's office, and the Hufflepuff common room, storage room, and kitchen near the bottom of the Great Hall, there are more than a dozen large classrooms that have been abandoned. And if you want to go from the first floor to the basement, except for the special secret passage, there is only the small staircase next to the luxurious marble staircase. Therefore, holding the sniper rifle, Jerry went directly to an unoccupied classroom closest to the small staircase, put his ear against the wall, and began to wait quietly. About 20 minutes later, the sound of footsteps descending the stairs suddenly came from the small staircase behind the wall. Someone is going from the first floor to the basement. The Halloween dinner has already started, and almost all the professors and students, including the headmaster Dumbledore and the night watchman Filch, must be at the dinner party at this time. And now at this time, the only one who will come to the basement from the first floor is Professor Quirrell, who is going to release the troll to cause chaos and go to the fourth floor to steal the Philosopher's Stone. When the footsteps were away from the stairs, Jerry picked up the sniper rifle, moved carefully, and came to the door of the classroom. Opening a gap in the wooden door, he took out the mirror he had prepared in advance, and through the reflection of the mirror, he saw the back of Quirrell in a purple turban. At this time, Professor Quirrell was turning his back to him, walking furtively along the corridor of the basement, towards the fifth basement classroom in the distance. Sure enough, it's here. Seeing Quirrell's figure in the mirror, Jerry couldn't help but feel happy. In fact, he had already planned this action for a long time. When he was in the main world, he really wanted a small world-like suitcase that Newt had in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. One is that with that box, he is equivalent to having a secret base. As a superhero, especially a superhero who does not intend to be controlled by anyone or any force, how can it work if there is no secret base of its own? On the other hand, it is too inconvenient to carry a broomstick every time he goes out. With the space equipment, he can save a lot of worry. However, after his investigation and inquiries during this period of time, boxes like Newt's are not as easy to obtain as you imagined. Even if you have a lot of galleons, you can't get them through normal channels. Because, similar to space equipment like Newt's suitcase, the main magic used in refining it is the untraceable stretch curse, an advanced spell that can only be learned in 5th and 6th grade. The use of this spell is strictly prohibited by the Ministry of Magic. There are regulations in magic. The magic of the traceless stretching spell, which can expand the space, cannot be used for personal items because of its particularity. It can only be used for the production of individual items approved by the relevant Ministry of Magic, such as school luggage, boxes and family tents. Therefore, unless the wizard made it himself in violation of the regulations, he would not be able to buy related products in regular stores. But with Jerry's current level of magic knowledge, it is not easy to learn the advanced spells such as the untraceable stretching curse, even if he obtained the spells through other means. Even if it can be learned, it probably won't expand much space when it is used, let alone the advanced knowledge of alchemy involved. Therefore, he paid attention to the wizards he has come into contact with, who may have such items. In fact, Hogwarts professors may have them in private, but they may not always carry them with them, and it is difficult for him to have a chance to sneak attack. However, there is one person who is an exception. That was Professor Quirrell, who taught defense against the dark arts. This professor was once an excellent wizard of La Wen Kilo, and his strength is quite extraordinary, especially his obsession with black magic. However, during a trip to Albania, he met Voldemort's remnant soul, was bewitched by it and became a loyal Death Eater, and even possessed Voldemort's remnant soul. After returning to school, he wrapped Voldemort around the back of his head with a purple turban all day long, and used garlic and other strong-smelling things to cover up Voldemort's decaying smell. And began to make up stories about encountering vampires and being frightened by witches, pretending to be a timid person, and lowering everyone's vigilance against him. This time, he took advantage of the fact that everyone, including Headmaster Dumbledore and Night Watchman Filch, was in the Great Hall, and he wanted a person to come to the basement to release the troll and create chaos. The Philosopher's Stone of Resurrection. End of this chapter. Chapter 75. Plans can't keep up with changes, and Jerry was waiting for this opportunity. Quirrell was able to hide the monster from everyone, and released the giant monster on the basement floor, which means that he must have a space item that can hide the monster at this time. More subtly, Quirrell evades everyone, giving Jerry a chance. The only difficulty is that Quirrell's strength is definitely at the professor level. With his current magical strength, even if it is a sneak attack, it is impossible to defeat Quirrell silently and obtain the space equipment from him. What's more, Quirrell still had Voldemort's soul on the back of his head. Although Voldemort is in the state of a remnant soul at this time and can't do much, but it is Voldemort after all, and who knows what other terrifying means he has. He wants good space equipment, but he doesn't want to die for space equipment. But when he was about to give up, when he used magic to heal the soldiers before, he saw the anesthesia sniper rifle, which rekindled his hope. Quirrell and Voldemort are definitely very vigilant against magic, and they must be very experienced in facing magic attacks, but they certainly don't have much experience in dealing with modern weapons, and they don't even know about them. The key point is that the Army's special anesthesia sniper rifle has a range of up to 1,000 meters. He can carry out sneak attacks where the opponent can't see. Besides, this is Hogwarts, with Hogwarts in Dumbledore Town. Even if Quirrell, a Death Eater, was aware of it, he didn't dare to do anything. If it succeeds, maybe not only a piece of space equipment can be harvested, but also some of Quirrell's private property in the space equipment. Seeing Quirrell disappear into the 5th classroom, Jerry rushed out of the classroom at the top of the stairs, quickly evacuated in the opposite direction, and ambushed in a very suitable sniper spot that he had found in the past few days. This sniper point is a corner position 600 meters away from the stairs, and it is also a visual blind spot. If someone goes downstairs, you can see Jerry's position, and Jerry can see the other person, but if someone goes upstairs, then that person will have his back to Jerry, and Jerry can aim at him with a sniper rifle the back. When Professor Quirrell releases the troll, he will definitely return to the auditorium on the 1st floor to report the news through the stairs, and he can give him a sneak peek. After setting up the sniper rifle, Jerry began to focus on the direction of the stairs through the scope of the sniper rifle. With the blessing of Superman mode, and in addition to the fact that he has also practiced a few times in the response room these days, there should be no major problems with his accuracy. After waiting for about 10 minutes, the back of Professor Quirrell finally appeared in the sight. Bayou! Jerry pulled the trigger decisively. A narcotic sniper bullet spewed out from the muzzle of the gun, and in less than 2 seconds, it traveled a distance of 600 meters and hit Professor Quirrell's without any reaction at all. Professor Quirrell, who had just released the giant monster under the stun spell in the 5th classroom, was about to take the stairs back to the auditorium on the 1st floor for the next step. Suddenly he felt a numbness in his buttocks, and then a feeling of drowsiness so strong that he couldn't stop it came to his heart. Before he could continue to move, his body shook and he fell to the ground. After one hit, Jerry didn't stop at all, and retreated decisively with his gun, and then hid in a nearby abandoned classroom, hiding the sniper rifle in a pile of debris in the classroom. He didn't go up to search Quirrell now, because although Quirrell was fainted, Voldemort was not, and Voldemort should not have much attack power now, but it's better to be careful in everything. Hiding in the abandoned classroom, Jerry quietly listened to the movement outside. Sure enough, about 5 minutes later, the roar of the troll and the sound of smashing the wooden door with a big stick began to be heard in the distance. Jerry's plan is very simple. Apart from stunning Quirrell with a narcotic sniper rifle, he will not come forward directly, but intends to kill with a knife. Quirrell is good at dealing with trolls, but that doesn't mean he can tame them. What would happen to the awakened troll if he met Professor Quirrell lying unconscious on the ground? I think facing a wizard who stuns himself with magic, the troll must be happy to reward him with a few big PS, or a few big sticks. If Quirrell was killed by the troll, then Voldemort's remnant must have escaped Hogwarts, and he could have finally appeared to sneak away Professor Quirrell's box. A good Slytherin who missed the dinner party because he was obsessed with reading, found the troll and Professor Quirrell killed by the troll on the way to the 1st floor. You see, what a normal thing this is. Dumbledore was still in the Great Hall at the moment, and he wasn't afraid of being discovered. Witches have investigative charms to retrace the previous spell cast by a wand, but no spells to retrace an entire event. What's more, Jerry didn't use magic at all in this sneak attack, but used a sniper rifle without talking about magic. As for whether Quirrell's death will affect the subsequent development of the plot, Jerry thinks, what does it matter to him? Dumbledore wants to use the Philosopher's Stone incident to train Harry, that's Dumbledore's business, he only needs to become stronger by himself, and then make a space equipment first. However, although the plan is perfect, it is always difficult to catch up with the changes. Just when Jerry was quietly waiting for the unconscious Professor Quirrell to be killed by a troll in the abandoned classroom, a familiar scream suddenly forced Jerry to temporarily change his plan. Why is Hermione here? Jerry froze when he heard the scream. Yes, there is indeed a scene in the movie where Hermione hid in the women's bathroom on the basement floor and cried because Ron laughed at her for having no friends. Later, he was found by the troll and was almost killed. Fortunately, Harry and Ron arrived in time, and they worked together to restrain the troll. However, when he was eating in the auditorium at noon today, He had obviously checked with Hermione. In the charm class in the morning, Ron did feel ashamed of being corrected by Hermione because of the levitating spell, and said a few outrageous words, but because Hermione had Jerry as a good friend, she was not as sad as in the original book, although she was also a little depressed. And in order to prevent accidents, he even had a heart-to-heart talk with Hermione at noon, and enlightened her well. But now, why did Hermione appear in the basement again? What is the situation? Because of Hermione's appearance, Jerry had to temporarily change the plan, but think about it, this is actually not bad, at least it looks more real, and this shot, not only saved Hermione, but also saved Professor Quirrell, and it will definitely be able to earn another wave of reputation. End of this chapter. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.